Welcome into the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. We have a very interesting show for you today, a show that centers around a murder. A murder that had to happen in a very controversial area of Boston. It involves some racial tension. It involves some societal tension. It involves a time in our history where everything just kind of comes together in one big explosive pot in Boston, Massachusetts. It's intriguing. This book is very intriguing, folks. It's a book that I'd like you to check out because it brings us back to a time in our history where we can feel a certain amount of shame as to how we reacted to one another. Murder, Race, and Boston's Struggle for Justice. The Combat Zone is the name of the book. And our guest today is Jan Brogan. Jan is a journalist and has been a journalist for more than 30 years, working as a correspondent for the Boston Globe, a staff writer for the Worcester Telegram and the Providence Journal, where she won the Gerald Loeb Award for Distinguished Business Writing. She's the award-winning author of four mysteries: Final Copy, Confidential Source, Yesterday's Fatal, and Teaser. Transactional Pictures purchased the rights to A Confidential Source, which is currently under development for a television series. She grew up in Clifton, New Jersey, and moved to New England to study journalism at Boston University. She holds a master's degree in English from the University of Massachusetts, Boston. She continues to work as a novelist and a journalist, and she teaches writing at the Boston University Summer Journalism Institute. She lives with her husband in a Boston suburb. Let's welcome into True Crime Tuesday, Jan Brogan. Jan, how are you?
Good, fine. Tim, thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you. What I find interesting about the book, and we'll talk about your background here in just a moment, but what I find fascinating about just this time period and writing about this time period is the pot of trouble and turmoil that we're jumping into here, a time in Boston's history. And I've heard some, and forgive me if I say this, and I know it sounds inflammatory when I say it. I have friends of African-American background that tell me when you ask them, what's the most controversial city you've ever been to? What's the city you feel most uncomfortable going to? They tell me it's Boston.
Yeah, it's got that rap. And the 70s are a good illustration of that. I think things are better now. But it was, the starting level was so low. It was really, the 70s was really like when I looked at the data, it wasn't racial tension. It was a racial war. They were, I think the first time the city kept stats on it or collected stats, there were like 607 racial incidents in a year reported to the police. That's black on white, white on black. That's not, or Hispanic. It wasn't, we're not even talking about hate crimes, distinct, with other minorities. This was just, and those were the ones that were reported. That was 1978. That was probably not the peak either. Probably the peak was in 76. So, people were, it was so violent. It was just so violent, because of busing.
Yeah.
Because of busing, but busing was the culmination of many years of racism.
What was besides busing, why the tribalism? Why because it's broken down into areas, as you put it so brilliantly in the book. You've got Southie and South Boston, you've got the North End, you've got these different areas of Boston that are very much tribal, and broken up by ethnic group. Why is it that there is such tribalism when you look at an area like not too far away from you in New York, where, mind you, it's tribal, but at the same time, you did have some crossover and you did have different ethnic groups that, although they didn't really, I'm going to use some terms here that may make people cringe, but it's the way it was at the time.
Yeah.
Although they stuck to their own kind, they also did associate with one another. Do you know what I'm saying? Why is it that in Boston they couldn't do that, but in New York they could?
Well, interestingly, Boston is so small compared to New York, and it's so much less, so much more parochial. But part of it is geography. The way, every city, I'm sure Chicago, there's, even in Clifton, where I grew up, there was the Lithuanian block and the Polish block and the Irish, areas. So every city, probably every state is like that to a certain degree. In Boston, it was magnified by the fact that, Southie is a peninsula surrounded on three sides by water. Charlestown is, surrounded by, water. The North End, which was the Italian area, has got water on one side, and then it had the highway on the other. So big parts of it are really geographically isolated. Also, the 70s are the baby boom. So you have a lot of young men, lot of young men just looking for fights. And that is an aspect that gets overlooked sometimes, the baby boom element, like they were looking for fights with the Irish, and the Italians were looking for fights with each other, let alone they got the blacks from Roxbury or Dorchester. So, and also Boston, it's hard to believe now because Boston is so affluent now. Boston was really poor. It was poorer than other cities. It was had the highest rate of urban white poverty in the nation.
Oh, wow.
And part of that reason was it had more immigration than other cities because the late 60s had opened up more numbers to immigration. So you had a lot of Irish coming in here, still new, just right off the boat, as they say. You had a lot of poor people came to Boston because it had this great reputation, ironically, for education. And then when you have a high immigrant population, you have more poverty because they just got here. Right. So they haven't gotten jobs yet. Also, there was something like a 20% unemployment rate in black neighborhoods, 15% unemployment rate in the white neighborhoods. That's huge. That's a big factor contributing to the violence. So when they, and then the school committee had resisted the school committee was set up, and they want to go back to this sometimes. So nicely, so crazy to even think about it. School committee people were elected at large, so you had people elected to advance their degrees, advance their political careers. It was a springboard to state house or even or national league. So they didn't care about education as much as they cared about their political base. So they really used racism to their advantage, the federal government told them they had to desegregate, and they said, no, we're not doing that. We're keeping it the way we've always done it. And, the federal government said, okay, look, just come up with some reasonable way to integrate the schools. Like magnet schools. There were a lot of opportunities, missed opportunities. And by the time Judge Garrity issued that order, he was at the end of his rope. And the ruling was, the solution, busing, was crazy. It was punitive. You started it by taking the black neighborhood and put it in Southie, the most violent neighborhood, and switching. And what you were doing was you were taking kids from one underperforming school and putting them into an even more underperforming school. There was no net gain for education here. So, overall, busing just led to all whites leaving the city or putting their kids in parochial school. So it was a bad solution to a bad problem. And so the city exploded. And that busing just left a long legacy, and the coverage as a media person, the coverage of that, the only images you ever saw on TV of black people were those in a riot or committing a crime. Yeah. So it just fostered a really bad situation for a long time. And I do believe a lot has been done, particularly under Mayor Ray Flynn, to improve the city. He did a lot of things, a lot of important things that I think improved the city. But it takes a long time.
That it does. Racial divide doesn't heal overnight. It doesn't even heal within 30, 40, 50 years. I mean, it's something that ingrains itself in a society, and it's hard to smooth things over because one little incident can break those wounds wide open all over again. And
they kept blacks out of power, but now we have I think predominantly we have a minority like woman mayor, Mayor Wu, but we have a lot of the city council's Black, the police commissioner's Black. We have a Black congresswoman. The prop that was all Irish or Italian in those days. So there has been progress. So I don't,
Yeah.
But the good thing about doing research on the 70s, if you think you're living in the worst times, you think you're living in the worst of times. And then when you start researching the 70s, you go, oh no, we actually are doing better,
Yeah.
Because it's all relative. But the 70s were a mess, particularly in Boston.
Well, not only on top of the situation with busing, you also had police corruption as well within Boston, which was huge. I'm wondering if you can talk about that for a moment, Jan, because police corruption really led to some of the issues that we're going to talk about here within the Combat Zone book. What was going on within the police department?
So, well, again, the police department was Irish run, and heavily unionized. And, was not, it had just started to, respond to, I think, federal requirements that it integrate. So the numbers of, and if you did have, a Black or Asian cop, he had not risen through the ranks yet. So it was still, in the power seat, it was still all white, Irish, Italian. So it was so corrupt that, Mayor White went outside to hire a police commissioner from San Francisco to come and Robert DeGrazia, to clean up the corruption. And DeGrazia, who I was very lucky to have interviewed like a year before he passed away, said he knew he was hired to clean up corruption. He just didn't realize it was the most corrupt police department in the nation. It was so corrupt that when he got here, he found that he couldn't do anything with the unions, and it wasn't getting the support he needed. So I love this part. He did a secret investigation into his own police department. So he got a team and a secret investigation surveilling his own police department. And I think it was 2 weeks before this murder, maybe it was only a week and a half before this murder, he released the results of that report as like a 572-page report that detailed police corruption, like from the small to the large. And you have to remember, too, this is 1976. This is the heyday of the mob.
Yeah.
And the North End, which is the Italian section of at the time, the Italian section of Boston, is the headquarters for the Massachusetts mob. The real New England headquarters is in Providence, but the Angiulo family is running it in Boston. And, Boston is also so small that it was really, he did a thing on District 1, which included the combat zone, which was the red light district, the waterfront business section, and the North End. And they found that the police were corrupt in like little ways and little ways, like, just like letting all mobsters double or triple park, to the cops were extorting sex from the prostitutes in the combat zone, to they were actually tipping off the mob to invest their own department's investigations. And then as a result, they had to sometimes come up with, numbers on arrests. So they would arrest like the low level hustlers, particularly in the combat zone. So it was just, there was one episode they called the Golden Boys. Two of the cops would not only exploit sex from like a Black prostitute, but then drive to drop her off in Southie, which was and then honk the horns, throw her out of the car and honk the horn so she'd get attacked. Oh my God. Yeah. So that's what Boston was like that in 1976. So that report also really affected this crime in that, so remember, so the combat zone is a 4-block area. And Boston had really kind of shocked the nation by zoning it as an adult entertainment district. Remember, Boston is known best for being uptight and puritanical and banning Walt Whitman's leaves of grass.
Right.
And this is a problem that all cities across the nation are struggling with at this time, because remember, this is before the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And if
Yes.
you wanted pornography, you had to buy it in a magazine or go to a strip club or go to an R-rated film, not or X-rated film. And this happened.
Or a bookstore.
Yeah, or a bookstore. The
Yep.
bookstores were really big, and they were
Yep.
kind of like, they were more involved than just a big bookstore, but they would come down to, and they were taking up inner city space, and they were growing, and the neighborhoods were all worried that it's going to come to their neighborhood. And because of Supreme Court decisions, a recent Supreme Court decision making it harder to define obscenity, and also a Massachusetts High Court decision, the city had its hands tied in restricting it. So they finally came up with Congressman Barry Frank, who was actually at the time working for City Hall as an aide, came up with the idea, or you couldn't outlaw it, but you could restrict it. And
Now,
so, in other words, if you said it was allowed within this 4-block area, then it could be illegal everywhere else.
wasn't the combat zone the result of trying to scale down a former zone that they had of I forget what it was called.
Scully Square?
Yeah.
No, so Scully Square was earlier. So Scully Square was in the 50s and the early 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the red light district, but it was not didn't quite reach the level of the combat zone. But it had been they had used urban renewal funds to basically mow it down and put the Boston City Hall there instead.
Okay.
So it was actually physically removed. But, like they found out that urban planning is no match for market forces. So that demand remained, and it just moved down Washington Street to an area which had been, the combat zone had been, it had some theaters there. So it was perfectly situated. It had been like, vaudeville in its day, and so old theaters. And it was called the combat zone because I think during the 50s, the Navy, from the Navy Yard, the sailors used to come in the bars and get into fist fights. So they called it the combat zone.
Okay.
So all this moved down to the combat zone. So in 1974, I think they finally said, okay, it's got to stay within this 4-block area. And so they allowed it there. And the idea was it was containment, but it was perceived as license. And the reason it was perceived as license was because although the city made a lot of promises to, upgrade it and patrol it and all that stuff, that never really happened. I mean, They started to, but it never really happened. And because of the mob moved right in and would own 40% of it, and they owned so many cops, at least 50%, DeGrazia thought, that, there was no policing. So it was quickly out of control.
Yikes.
And so one of the crimes detailed in that report, and was they called them wolf packs. So now this is a 4-block area where, you buy sex, you buy drinks, you buy drugs, and you probably don't want any trail of it on a credit card if you had a credit card back then. Mm-hmm. So everybody's carrying a lot of cash, right?
Yeah.
So mugging and pickpocketing is a good business to be in. So you have what's called wolf packs. They call them wolf packs. This is when they were being nice. That was the nice term for these young women who tended to be minority because they were the poorest, who would come and sometimes one of these women that involved in this was like, she was 16. They're very young, right?
Wow. Yeah.
And they hang around the outsides of the strip clubs. And when the drunk men come out, or the drunks come out at 2 a.m., they sidle up to them, fondle them, and while they're distracting them, steal their wallet. And this report says not only are they doing this, but now they have male protectors who, for a cut of the wallet, are there to protect them in case a guy notices his wallet is stolen. And DeGrazia told me that even he knew some cops who provided protection for a cut of the wallet. So this is really, like he said, the most disgusting thing about how easily cops were bought was how at that time they could be bought for $5.
Wow.
Remember, it's a poor time.
Yeah.
It's a poor time. And so that happened. That report hits the presses, the front page of everything. And then this murder happens, I think, was the next week or a week and a half later.
Now, what I find interesting, and let's go back to schooling for a second here. You've got some of the poorer schools in the nation there in Boston, but at the same time, there's some of the most opportunistic schools in the nation because they really are feeder systems for Harvard University.
Only just one of them.
Just one of them? Okay.
That's Boston Latin School, which is still a feeder. It's like one of the first. I think John Hancock went there. Like a lot of the famous patriots went there. Benjamin Franklin went there for a time. So, and it's you have to test into it. Okay. So it's really hard to get into. It's very political about who gets in, because it provides this tremendous opportunity. So, so that's who gets in and who doesn't is very controversial. Andy Puopolo got in as his younger brother, Danny, who also features large in the school. And Andy got to, worked his tail off and got to Harvard. Yeah. And it's the Harvard football team that descends on the combat zone. On the night of the murder.
And I tell you what, we can get into that here in the second half of the program. I find it fascinating that even throughout all this chaos and through everything that's going on in the small city of Boston, there's that little glimmer of hope that you can rise above these small poor stations and get out of it, so to speak. And we'll talk about that Harvard dynamic here in a second, because it's funny that you've got all this, not funny, but it's funny in an ironic way, that you've got racial tensions all throughout Boston. Yet when some of these kids make it to Harvard, that racial tension has to go away quickly, especially if you're playing sports. It seems like at that point, even though there may be some tension within the team, as in the book you so eloquently put it, they become teammates at that point. When Andrew or Andy is on his team, on the Harvard football team, you may have Black, Italian, Irish members of the team, but at that point you're all one team. You're all sticking up for each other, which is something that's not in the mindset of people who are growing up in Boston. No,
it's I truly believe that, that kind of tribalism has to do with exposure. The more you're exposed to people who are different than you are, the harder it is to be so tribal. Yeah. So, and I think there was certainly still some racism, but Andy, the football player who was murdered, was especially ahead of his time. He really believed in crossing that divide and making friends with, and he really, mostly he felt like an underdog as a Italian in an Irish city. And he, where the Irish called him a guinea, all the time. And he wanted to make sure that no one else felt like that. So he really went out of his way to befriend everyone on the team and he created bonds both at Boston Latin and in Harvard with Black friends.
Before we go to break, let's get to know the Puopolo family real quick. Now, obviously, his mother and father, actually, his father came over from Italy, correct?
Yes, at 5 years old, yeah.
And he fought in the military, or he was in our military?
Yeah, no, he was a Marine, and he was in the Pacific Theater.
Okay. And took great pride in that. Took great pride in the fact that he
taught the boys that, Semper Fi was really, that loyalty was everything. And I think that loyalty was important. The boys were loyal to each other. They were loyal to their teammates. And that was a rallying cry. And the mom, they grew up in the North End. They're a very Italian family, very, the father, also Andrew Puopolo, he went to school with the Angelos, who were the mob. He was on first name basis with them because it's a small, tiny city, And but that's not the way he wanted to go for his family. They were very, very religious family, and that kind of I have to say that really came into play and helped them withstand all that they had to withstand, because their faith would be tested in this story.
I find it interesting too that when Andrew Sr. comes out of the military, he's offered a position in the Angulo family.
Yes.
And turns it down.
Yes. And then they moved out of the North End when the boys were like 12 and 14, because he was offered a corner, and he wanted to make sure his sons did not end up on any of those corners,
Yeah.
So they keep their ties because their grandparents are there, the family business is there, but they moved to Jamaica Plain out of the North End because he does not want his sons going down that road.
Which is quite amazing. I mean, to come out of the war, maintain the fact that he still wants to be a stand-up guy, keep the kids out of the old neighborhood, make sure that they grow up on the straight and narrow and do the right thing and raise them to be upstanding citizens. It says a lot about the character of Andrew Sr. Yeah,
he's a very almost noble and very charming man, very very humble and charming man, and that plays a role in the story as well, because initially the media gets behind the family and they're lost, although that will change.
Yeah. And there's Andy himself, and then Andy has a brother, Danny, correct?
Yeah. And Danny, one reviewer said Danny is the heart of the story of this book. And it really is, because it's hardest. He's 19 when this happens. He loses his brother. The two brothers are incredibly close. They're like little less than 2 years apart. They're so close that when they move to Jamaica Plain, they have to share a bedroom most of their lives. But even when their sister moves out and there's an extra bedroom, they stay and they share a bedroom. Andy, when he's in Harvard, comes home almost every weekend to spend with the family.
Oh, wow.
They're a very tight Italian family.
Yeah. It sounds like a lovely family to grow up in. And of course, Andy sticks to those lessons, those morals, everything that he's given from his father as he goes to Harvard and is on the football team. And he actually got some pretty good news as he wasn't quite NFL material, obviously, when he was on the Harvard football team, but got some really great news as he was coming off the football team and they were about to have this year-end banquet. I believe he was going into medical school, right?
Yes. He'd been accepted by one medical school already.
So he was excited. He had a new lease on life, a new direction in life. So he was quite proud of that and sprung that on his parents. I tell you what, Jen, when we come back, let's get into that fateful night at the combat zone and explain why these Harvard football players were going to the combat zone after their banquet, which happened directly after the banquet. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that fateful night with Andy and what exactly happened. And we kind of set it up with these wolf packs and the fact that the wolf packs enter into our story. And then we'll talk a little bit about what happened afterwards. Again, folks, this book it's alarming when you go back to 1976 and see what happened in this area of Boston and the racial divide, the societal divide, and why it resulted in murder. It's just shocking. The name of the book is The Combat Zone: Murder, Race, and Boston's Struggle for Justice. Our guest is the award-winning author and journalist, Jan Brogan, who wrote this book, and it is an excellent book at that. I recommend you get a copy during the break. We have a link in the description of this program, so you can do so. When we come back, more with Jan Brogan talking about The Combat Zone right here on the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. Welcome back to the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. Our guest is award-winning author and journalist Jan Brogan. She is the author of The Combat Zone: Murder, Race, and Boston's Struggle for Justice. We have a link in the description of this program, so you can go ahead and pick up that book. I suggest you do. Jan, when we left our audience at the last break, we were talking about the Harvard football team. They've had their banquet, year-end banquet. Andy has told his parents that he's got a new direction in life. He's not exactly going to the NFL. He doesn't have those kind of skills. But he's decided that he's going to get into medicine and he's going to go for his medical degree. But there's a little tradition that the Harvard football team has, and it involves the combat zone directly after the banquet takes place, the year-end football banquet for Harvard. Why don't you tell us what that tradition is?
Yeah, so, Harvard is a place of traditions, and everything to do with they had the last Harvard-Yale game is a tradition. The little red flag they wave is a tradition. Everything is tradition-oriented. They go to the banquet. That's all about the tradition, and Ethel Kennedy is there to give an award in her husband's name. It's very Tony. If you ever been inside the Harvard Club, it's gorgeous in the Back Bay. They leave those hallowed halls, and this is tradition. You got to do it. They all do it every year. 40 of the football players go down to the combat zone, the seedy, shady, glittery combat zone for a last drink together inside the strip club. Now, remember, this is in 1976. Drinking age was 18, not 21.
Right.
That's something you have to remember. And so somebody knows somebody. I think one of the kids on the team is cousins with the manager, so they get a private room in the back of the Naked Eye, which is probably the most popular strip club for college boys, as it features the all-nude college girl review. That's what it's known for. And they go in. They have themselves a good time. They could probably get there around midnight. They have a couple drinks. A couple of them wind up on the stage dancing with the stripper. The bouncer comes out. They all get kicked out, but that's, it's closing time anyway. Yeah. So they descend on the streets of the combat zone. Now, Andy has actually a exam. He's pre-med. He's got an exam the next day. He's with his another, and Tom Lincoln is also pre-med. So they're trying to get home quick. So they're actually all the way in a car down Boylston Street. Another group of football players. These actually are going home in the Harvard van, equipment van. The Harvard van comes. That's how much of a tradition it is. Okay. The Harvard van brings some kids down, and they're going back with the Harvard equipment manager, and they're past the Carnival Lounge, which is another strip club. And I think it's 2 or 3 of these young women, the wolf pack, and these 2 women are the 2 women who approach them are black. And it's 7, I think it's 6 football players and the equipment manager, so that's 7 total. The first of their group are a couple of 3 black kids on the team. And they say, and they've heard the stories, and, it's busing, and they do not want any trouble in Boston with the Boston police. Right. They say, get out of here. Right. Yep. A couple of the boys in the back were a little drunker, they start talking to them. The girls wind up going back with them to the Harvard van. One of them is trying to talk these girls into coming back to the campus with them. And the girl gets in. She's on his lap for about 5 minutes. She jumps out, and they say, "You have your wallet?" He doesn't have his wallet. Ooh. So 3 of the white kids, the black kids are like, "I'm not leaving the van." The white kids jump out. They fought. They start to chase her. They wind up, one thing leads to another. And now Andy is already in the back of a car ready to go home, right? He has nothing to do with this. Yeah. But the fight, the chase goes past him, though, where he's in the car to the T station. 3 black men get involved. Edward Soares. So from their perspective, they come out of the Carnival Lounge and they see, looks like by then, and so about 7, because they pick up other players, football players chasing a black woman down the street. They get involved in the chase. Edward Soares. Now the woman actually dropped. The young girl, 16, actually falls. It's not the young one, it's the oldest, 21. She falls to the ground. The first Harvard football player who reaches her, I think Steven Saxon, picks her up and says, "Do you have the wallet?" And she says, "No." And he lets her go. Because he has no, because he was just kind of brought into this. He was like on the street. He was brought into this. She gets put in a cab. Edward Soares comes and he punches them. He kicks us. A couple of them fall. They get up. Now by this point, they're joined by more football players. Right. So Edward Soares winds up against the T station, surrounded by 6 or 7 white football players, but there's no fist fights going on.
Okay.
There are no blows exchanged. And Leon comes in, and Leon Easterling comes in. He's another black. He's like the oldest. He's 44.
Okay.
Soares is 33. Easterling is 44. He jumps over the back of somebody else and he stabs Tom Lincoln in the abdomen.
Oh.
Yeah. So Tom Lincoln. So then the equipment manager says, "They've got knives. Run!"
Mm-hmm.
So all of the football players turn around. Even Tom Lincoln, who talked to me extensively for this, he said he was in shock. So he said he didn't even feel it.
Yeah.
At the time, they all run back to the van. They get inside, except for one, Charlie. And at this point, Andy Puopolo gets out of his car to see what's going on with this. He sees his teammates flying by, being chased by. It's 3 black guys, joined by another man. They call him the man in the cranberry jacket,
mm-hmm.
who through testimony is described as white, black, and Hispanic. And who Danny thinks maybe he was Italian, because he's the only one who doesn't get arrested and never gets identified or caught.
Yeah.
So, but when Andy walks down, because they're in an alley, and he looks out, he sees his teammate, only one of them. Everyone else in the van who had been pulled out was being pummeled against the side of the van so hard that the van was shaking. So he goes in to help him. He gets into it with Edward Soares, and they're just doing some sort of thing. And all this happens in about less than 5 minutes, right? The whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Leon Easterling comes again, and he stabs Andy in the stomach. So one of his teammates sees him and picks him up and says, "Let's get out of here." And they're trying to cross the street when Leon comes after them a second time and stabs, this time into the gut and up into his heart.
Oh.
And at that point, the police descend almost instantly, because there had been higher rate of patrol because of the report the week before. So they were trying to improve policing, and they take Tom Lincoln. They know that they don't have time to wait for an ambulance with Andy. So and Tufts Medical is like 2 minutes away.
Yeah. So
they just put him in the van and drive them. They send Tom Lincoln to Mass General Hospital because they can wait for an ambulance for him.
Mm-hmm.
And they arrest 3 men at the site, Leon Easterling. So they arrest Leon Easterling. They also arrest Edward Soares, who had been fighting with them. But they also arrest Richard Allen, who is he is a bouncer at the Carnival Lounge. Also, he's a low-level hustler. He's got a huge, but he didn't do anything. He didn't talk. The only thing he did was tell them, "Go home.
Yeah,
you're out of your league. Get out of here."
Yeah,
that was his message. But so they arrest him, and they charge them initially with attempted murder, because Andy. So Andy, when he arrives at the hospital DOA, but they're able to restart his heart.
Yeah. And
they work on him all night, and his pupils react to light, so they're very hopeful.
Mm-hmm.
So the next day, and so this is so huge. This is Harvard. This story is about Harvard. It's about Boston's racial relations, and it's about Boston and its stupid move in the eyes of the rest of the nation to legalize a combat zone. So it gets covered by more than 300 newspapers across the nation, and in the Stars and Stripes in Japan.
Yeah.
But Danny's in the hospital, with the families in the hospital, they go to leave the next morning, and the street Harrison ad is filled with, TV trucks and newspaper reporters. This is a big, big story. And so the next morning there's a press conference on it with the police. Now this is District 1 police. Mm-hmm. And to say that they were in need of some good press is an understatement, right? They just a week ago, they were named, like, their corruption was laid bare. And the doctors say if it wasn't for the swift thinking and swift acting of the police, this boy would be dead, and we think he's going to live. Hurrah, right? Right. So it's this kind of feel-good story initially. And the family is very hopeful, but as soon as they go in to see him the next day, immediately seizes. And the doctors know then that that's not a good sign. Oh. And he stays in this coma for a month. And the hospital, they have their own lounge. It become like every politician visits, psychics come to, I mean, it becomes, the Pope sends a medal, had a blessed medal. It's kind of like a 3-ring circus, but the family is just holding on with this hope that there was a miracle, because he wrought, and they think there's going to be another miracle.
Yeah.
And everybody's praying for a miracle. You know, there's prayer services in Harvard and all over the city. But Andy dies in early December, and the family's crushed. And the prosecutor Tom Mundy had already been in to try to, even before he died, to up the bail, because he knew murder charges were coming. Mm-hmm. So these 3 black men are charged with murder in the first degree, even though only one of them, they're using something called joint venture, which is a little like the felony murder rule, which says, if you knew he had a knife and you followed him to the fight and you helped him, you're just as guilty as he is of murder.
Yeah. Yep.
And also, they're also saying, and not to mention that the 3 of you were working with that prostitute for the cut of the wallet. So that's the prosecutorial argument. This is going on during busing. So when they impaneled the jury, those jurors are coming from primarily the white neighborhoods that are feeling most aggrieved. It takes them, I think, 2 weeks to impanel the jury, because during jury selection, you have a lot of people who, when the judge says, given your racial views, can you be fair to a black defendant? And they're like, nah, not really. They're just, I don't know if they're trying to get out of Judy, or they just really were being honest. They're like, no, I can't do that. And then a lot of it was, how much publicity have you heard? And the publicity is nonstop on this.
Right.
So paneling a jury takes a long time. And the prosecutor, Tom Mundy, who is the best prosecutor in the office and will go on to have a very distinguished prosecutor career. In those days, what the prosecutor did, was the first thing you did on a jury, if you had black defendants, was get rid of any potential black on the jury. And it was there weren't that many blacks in the jury pool to start off with, because it's Boston. You only have something like a 60, maybe 18% population is black, and the way the jury rolls were called was from the voter registration, and blacks did not register to vote at the same rate as whites. So you tended to have very few blacks in the jury pool, and then they would systematically strike every black juror. And Richard Allen's attorney, Henry Owen, is a black. He's the most prominent black attorney in Boston at the time, probably through the 70s and 80s. And he's seen this happen before when he's gone against Mundy. So this time, and also the judge, Henry Owens is convinced that Judge Roy, who's called the hanging judge, is brought in whenever the state wants a conviction. Okay. And he thinks that Roy is a racist and that his client has no chance. So he puts his from the first moment of jury selection, he's working on an appeal. And every time Mundy strikes a black juror, he notes an exception and calls him out on it. Meanwhile, this is not just, I know Boston is the most racist city in the nation, but this is business as usual everywhere. This is totally legal. This goes on in every courthouse in the nation. And the defense got rid of any potential juror who had an Italian last name. Yeah. Yep. On the theory they'd be too sympathetic to the victim. So this is the way business is done. It's held up by precedent at the time. And that's what they do. So the final jury, they do have one black on the jury, and he's the foreman. And they go to trial.
Which it sounds like an incredibly exhausting process in order to try and get jurors. I mean, and having, and we kind of summarized it here, but when you read it in the book, the fact that they keep striking down black jurors on the prosecutorial side, on the defendant's side, they're trying to get rid of as many Italian jurors or potential jurors as possible. It took what? I think the figure was there was 185 potential jurors that they could pick out of just to get the 15 potential, 12 permanent and 3 alternates or 4 alternates.
Well, they're supposed to get 16. They're supposed to have 4 alternates, but they give up because they can't. So they do it with 3 alternates. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's it's just this arduous process to try and get what they can get. And at one point, doesn't the defense try to knock the trial back to October because they're just saying this is impossible, or let's try to get a venue change? And they're trying all these different things to try and get as much of a fair trial for their side on the defense as possible, knowing that they're probably facing an uphill battle.
Well, the other thing is Andy died in December.
Yeah.
This goes to trial that March, 3 months later.
Yeah.
That's unheard of. Today, like after a murder, it's so that gives the defense 3 months to prepare.
Yeah.
It's not a lot of time, and it's still too hot, it's still too in the air. And when they're trying this, there's all this. So at the same time, all this investigation is coming out about the combat zone. So because right after this, there's a big clampdown, and the district attorney had been investigating the combat zone at the time. So every strip club is being brought to having board hearings. They're losing their license, losing their permits. They're being charged with corruption. This is in the news every day. So and then they're saying the combat zone where Andy Puopolo was murdered, where the Harvard football player was murdered. So it's in the news every day, impacting the trial. And in fact, the jury will convict all 3, and it's a very complicated case. It's usually hard to get a jury. Like a murder conviction is the hardest conviction to get because you're putting someone away for life. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And no parole in Massachusetts. And so you're asking the jury to put people to prison for life without parole who didn't actually do the murder. They just, they just provided support using joint venture. One of them who didn't even touch anybody and was telling them to go home. So they end deliberations. I think they end the court at like noon. The jury gets sent out for deliberations at 1. They break, after dinner. They're sequestered. So that's what, 4 hours? The next morning, 20 minutes, they have a jury, and they're all convicted of murder on the first degree. Yeah. Now, it was a very complicated. Now, the prosecutor really had excellent evidence. Mm-hmm. He had a lot of the medical evidence alone was very damning for Leon Easterling. Mm-hmm. They had a lot of evidence that Leon Easterling had murdered them. They had a lot of evidence that, when the blacks chased them down the street, they became the aggressors. But they didn't have in that first. I didn't think. And I read the transcripts 3 times. They didn't have a lot of solid evidence of. Well, they had evidence of joint venture and that they followed him, but they didn't have a lot of because they were also arguing the 3 black men were working to protect, in a conspiracy to protect the prostitutes. They didn't have a lot of evidence about that, but they all get convicted. And when that conviction happens, all of a sudden the media sentiment switches, and it goes from being sympathy for the Puopolos to this is harsh justice, this is really, the tide turns. And Danny is at Boston College, and he says he remembers, he'd be trying to go to school, and he's of course still so traumatized by this. And he said he could see people always look at him like, is that the Puopolo? And it was, and he felt like that in that racist trial, so it's no longer sympathy for his brother and what his brother went through, but that racist trial. And there are a couple things that happened after this trial that also changed the sentiment. So I should say right off the bat, Henry Owens appeals immediately, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. He appeals, and the defense appeal immediately. But there are a couple other things that happen. Boston, it's a lot of violence. So they're trying to, and it's a lot of, at the time, statistically, it's a lot of white on black violence. It's something like, there's violence both ways. There is no question. There is violence both ways. But statistically, I think that the feds come out with a statistic that say it's 60% white on black.
Yeah.
And what happens is you have a trial of Brian Nelson as a young black kid who's murdered. He's like 18 years old. A bunch of white kids in a van and 3 black kids in a car get into it, and it's during something with snow is involved. They spin out. They get into a fight, and Brian Nelson gets murdered with I think a tire iron and a Coke bottle. Mm-hmm. And so not only are none of the people he's with charged, none of the other white kids are charged using joint venture, but he's only charged with manslaughter because it's a fight, not murder. Yeah. And he'll be found innocent. So despite a lot of testimony, including one of his own white kids who testified against him. So justice just doesn't seem very fair. There's also an instance where a school from, this is really sad, a school from Pennsylvania of black kids come up for a field trip to see the Bunker Hill Monument. Mm-hmm. And the adults with them get attacked by 3 white kids with with baseball bats and hockey sticks. Jeez. And they arrest 3 white guys, and they are found innocent, or they're not convicted. And there's a belief there that they actually got the wrong guys, but the police work was rigorous. So there's this feeling that only blacks get convicted. And there's also a Boston Globe spotlight series which shows that statistically blacks go to jail they get harsher prison sentences, and they stay in jail longer and to the worst prisons than whites who do the same thing. So all this is kind of hitting the press. Yeah. By the time the second trial will roll around.
My God. Jan, I have to ask you, when you feature all this in the book, and I realize it's important to shine a light on some of these cases and to show exactly in this right, correct framing who gets the injustice here and who doesn't. But in that, when we look back in the clear frame of history to see who exactly was done wrong and who was done right, what is it you're hoping to accomplish by showing people through that correct lens? What is it that you're hoping to clear up?
Well, there were a couple of things I wanted. So in Boston, even when I was doing the research, people would say, "Oh, Andy Puopolo, he's that Harvard football player who was chasing the prostitute who stole his wallet to get it back, who was in the combat zone to get sex that night." So I wanted to clear up the story that he was a completely innocent victim in this. Okay. So that was one thing. That was and I also wanted to show, but I wanted to show, to me, and so through most of this story, which I don't mention, there's this whole revenge thing that, the family knows, like the mob offers the family to get revenge for them. Okay. And Danny is obsessed with this idea that it's his job to get revenge. So I wanted to show how the family, put their trust in the criminal justice system instead and had to live with the results, but that they took the high road. Okay. So there was that. And also, I think that this story becomes a metaphor for Boston itself. Like Danny is almost a metaphor for Boston in itself. And that's what Boston was like in those days, that tribal Boston. And Danny evolves and the city evolves because it also goes into what happens after this trial. Ray Flynn comes in, corrections that are made, and that, yes, there is still a long way to go, but we came from a very, very low place. So I wanted to show that things, and the other thing is this trial changes criminal justice. Okay. That was the main thing. That's why I thought the story had legs, because of this appeal, they say you can't do this anymore. It's called the Soares decision. And it started in Boston and California, and it said you can't strike women off the jury because it's a rape trial.
Yep.
Right. You can't strike gays off the jury if the victim is gay. You can't strike blacks. You can't strike any defined group. And the way they monitor this is, when you strike a couple people, the other attorney starts keeping numbers, and cases where they get appealed and they lose them. Mm-hmm. So, and it's called the Soros decision, and it changes criminal. It starts in Boston, Massachusetts. It eventually takes, Boston is so bad, right? We're so racist, but we have the most activist criminal justice system in the nation. It leads the way, and the other states, they're activists. They're too progressive. They don't do it for a while, but finally gets to the U.S. Supreme Court in the Babson decision. I think it's 8 years later, and the Supreme Court says, no, you can't do this. So it changes the way juries are chosen forever. Okay. Although I have to say, in Massachusetts, the Soros decision, and because of a couple of refinements, it works better than it works in the rest of the nation. Like the Babson decision prosecuted, people find ways. There's like YouTubes on how to get around it. Mm-hmm. But in Boston, because they can lie, so give other reasons and stuff. But in Boston, because of the Soros decision, the way it was written, and a few other refinements, we really improved criminal justice for everybody. So I wanted to show, all we talk about are how bad things are. Right. How bad things are and how much farther we have to go. And it's true. We do. You could always have further to go. But if you don't look back and see how bad and see that you can change, how can you believe in change?
Absolutely. And that's perfect. That's a perfect answer, and really what I was hoping you would say. I want to play a little what if game with you, Jan, just for a second. What happens if Danny does take the Angulo family's offer? Where do you see things going? Do we get as much progress in the story as we've gotten, or do you think Danny does get the satiation he's looking for, and do things turn out better than what they were?
No, I don't think. One thing, for a lot of the data I've studied, like a lot of the post-traumatic stress from when you have a loved one who is murdered, mm-hmm. or murder damages, the damage is so deep, and it's particularly for a 19-year-old younger brother. There is no coming back from that unless you have, like, outside of maybe some very serious therapy. Mm-hmm. So I don't think a criminal justice system can, if Danny had done that, or if they had those guys whacked in prison, I think Danny would have been worse off, because I don't think he could have lived with himself. Because he is a very religious guy, mm-hmm. And it's a very religious family, and I don't think he could live with that murder. I mean, maybe he could. Maybe that's me being naive, but I don't think it would have. Nothing makes it better, Nothing makes losing your brother. I lost a brother when I was nothing, and it wasn't a murder, but nothing makes that better. Just time makes it easier, but I don't think that would have made it better. And that's the family. How about the criminal justice system? So the criminal justice system eventually, I think, would have come round to this with juries. It would have just taken more trials to get there, to make the changes necessary in jury selection. True.
And then not to mention, Danny's got that debt then to the Angulo family. And and how does that play out over the years?
Yeah. No, it's you could have murdered them all, I guess, but the appeals, I think what would happen, the appeal still would have stood. Mm-hmm. Even if they'd been murdered in prison, their convictions would have been invalidated, and the Soros decision would have stuck. So they would have had to change trial with juries are chosen.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's interesting stuff, I tell you, Jan. In a wonderful book, you really have put out a wonderful book that shows not only what the times were in 1976 compared to where they are now, but just where everything was in that time period, and really brings people to a time period where they can say, wow, we have come a long way. one, but two, there is so much more we can do, and it gives us a real reference point as to where we can improve. The name of the book, The Combat Zone: Murder, Race, and Boston's Struggle for Justice. Again, folks, I thoroughly enjoyed sitting down with this book and really getting my head wrapped around it. And just, you have to sit down and tell yourself, this was a real event. These were real events. This is not a work of fiction. It's true crime and true events. And somebody lost their life over something such as this. And people acted like this. This is not a step to the left or an imaginary story. It's all real. And it shocks you. It truly shocks you.
I think the hardest thing for me is, I think that if the prosecutor, who really was, I think he was under pressure, but I think if he had just prosecuted Leon Easterling for murder in the first degree, just him, maybe Suarez for assault and battery, going out instead of overreaching, I think it would have been a lot easier on the family. And I think it would have been a lot fairer going in. Yeah. Absolutely.
And I encourage you folks to get the rest of the story, to pick up the book and find out for yourself. It's well worth it. Again, the book, The Combat Zone: Murder, Race, and Boston's Struggle for Justice. We have a link in the description of this program. Go get the book. Read the story for yourself and get ready to be astounded. It is quite a great book. Jan, Brogan, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Folks, it's time now for us to lighten things up just a bit. It's time for us to bring in Beer City Bruiser, and it's time now for Dumb Crimes and Stupid Criminals.
It's Crayon News story time.
What happened with this dude, Christ Bearer? I heard he cut his penis off and then jumped off a balcony.
Suspect pulls gun from butt, shoots twice at Denver police.
What is your emergency?
I need help.
And what's the problem?
I'm too high.
You're too high?
Yeah.
It's that time y'all look forward to. It is time for Dumb Crimes, Stupid Criminals, as we lighten things up a little bit. And as we do that, we bring in a co-host, fresh from the Big Easy. He is the co-host with the most, the BCB, the big cuddly bear himself, Beer City Bruiser. Bruiser, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic, Cruiser. Happy report, safe and sound back in good old North Kakalaki. Had a great time in New Orleans. A little bit hot. We got to see the first time, they said, in 2 years they had a real heavy downpour.
Really?
It was so bad the manhole covers were starting to come up.
Really?
Yeah, we got to find out what below sea level really is from a thunderstorm. It was only the first day. So it didn't ruin anything that we did.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, because that day we did a tour of a mansion, and one of the oldest mansions, which is just beautiful. And that night we were doing a true crime tour, and we're like, oh no, because the true crime tour was rain or shine. They don't care.
Okay.
But thank God the weather let up, and we got to do the true crime. And the true crime tour was probably my favorite tour of the whole vacation. Yeah.
Nice, very nice. All right.
Yeah.
We'll get some more details tomorrow on that, and anxious to hear about that. Also tomorrow, folks, on the show, just looking ahead. Yes, Ziggy's Picks is back, and we've added a cast member. We'll tell you about that tomorrow as well. If you want a sneak peek, you can go to darknessradioshow.com, and you can find out how we're doing this week.
We're not doing so
well. Week 1 of the NFL, which is just screwy. And yes, I'm still screaming at Kirk Cousins, for those of you who want to know.
I love in the chat. They had to check on you.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad somebody checked on me, because I damn near had a stroke yesterday. So yeah, that was not a good game. So Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals. Boy, have we got stories for you. A couple out of Minnesota here today.
Oh, okay. That's unusual.
Yeah. Well, I'm beginning to think that, one, parents don't know how to raise their children anymore.
I agree with that.
Especially here in this state, that you're going to find out about that today. And we're going to start it off, Bruiser, believe it or not.
Oh.
With an AI story from a listener.
So we're going nightmare fuel on Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals.
That's right. Dumb Crime, Stupid Technology is what we can label this one.
Okay.
That's right. A criminal enterprise flaunts AI in a creepy fraud for hire commercial meant for the dark web.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wait, you can a commercial, huh?
A commercial. A criminologist recently unearthed a video of a multi-billion-dollar transnational criminal organization that has been stealing from the U.S. government since the pandemic and selling generative artificial intelligence tools to other criminals.
Okay, I guess that's a lucrative criminal enterprise.
I would think so. The 58-second clip, which was meant for the dark web, opens with a person who goes by Sanchez, not Dirty Sanchez, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Covered head to toe in black clothing and speaking behind a black skeleton mask with someone else who appears to be digging a grave behind him. Ooh, we've got elements here. We've got production elements.
I was gonna say they actually took time to storyboard this out, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. Yeah. It took a little bit of time to put this together. Yes, I sell Chase bank accounts. Yes, I am one of the first people to sell fake bank accounts 4 years ago, the man who calls himself Sanchez said. We started with my partner 4 years ago. Now we are about 30 people in one office. Well, growth is important too.
That is. That means their criminal enterprise is growing.
That's right. As he speaks, the camera shifts from a face-to-face point of view with Sanchez. I just love saying his name. To one looking up from what appears to be a hole with ominous music in the background. So he just kind of pops his head up like a gopher.
Hey, are you interested in some bank accounts?
The video was uncovered by David Maimon, a criminologist and professor at Georgia State University, who provided context to the video in a LinkedIn post. This was an update to some of his concerned customers who haven't seen him on the online underground market for a few weeks. Maimon went on to say, these groups are behind most of the pandemic fraud that cost the country billions and are now using generative AI to remain hidden while expanding their criminal empire. Haywood Talcove, CEO of LexisNexis Risk Solutions Government Group, told Fox News Digital. When you think of pandemic fraud and modern-day cyber criminal fraud targeting the government, you usually think of low-level fraudsters acting alone. He used the example of someone submitting a dozen unemployment applications with stolen identities during the pandemic. In reality, those who commit government fraud and get caught are the tip of the iceberg, Talcove said. They're like the street-level drug dealers who get arrested. There's a whole machine behind them that, at this point, closely resembles the 20th century Italian mob or modern-day drug cartels, he went on to say. On the dark web, there is a fraud-as-a-service industry run by international cyber gangs from all over the world, including Russia, Nigeria, and China, among dozens of others. The one depicted in the video is called Mega Darknet Market. That kind of sounds like something the Japanese came up with in manga.
I was going to say, that sounds like a Godzilla company.
It does.
Like there's Godzilla destroying the Mega Darknet company.
That's right. Mega Darknet Market, which Talcove said is one of the biggest enterprises in the world. The video gave the first glimpse into how these organizations sell mule accounts, which is a bank account set up with a stolen identity, as well as a generative AI and deepfake tools to other criminals, which Talcove went on to say. This video is proof of what I've been saying. There are some very organized institutions empowering low-level fraudsters from all over the world. These international criminal enterprises rose to prominence during the pandemic and stole hundreds of millions, Talcove also went on to say. However, that is a drop in the bucket to the $1 trillion or more that these groups can steal from the U.S. government over the next year using artificial intelligence.
Oh, geez.
1 trillion, Bruiser.
That is a lot.
Being a good guy doesn't pay.
No, it doesn't. And you know what? Now they have acting jobs, too.
Yeah.
Sanchez.
Yeah, Sanchez is now in his own video.
Yeah.
That is just fraud, Talcove went on to say. These international enterprises are arming other criminals across the globe with AI tech and tools that execute sextortion scams. I use the word sextortion scams. That's a word.
Sextortion? I've never heard that word.
Yep. Which generally target preteens to young adults and have led to suicides. So in other words, if they take a naked selfie, they grab that selfie off the net or off the web or dark web, and then they turn it around and blackmail them for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I've gotten a few messages, not my nude photos because I don't have any, but is this your friend or family member? It's like, I don't know. It's a wiener. I don't look at my friends or family members' wieners, so I don't know.
You're like, dude, it's a wiener or something. This is a very important trend that has largely gone unnoticed, Talkov said. The pandemic prompted a transformation of America's criminals and gangs from gun running and drug dealing to unemployment fraud, SNAP fraud, and PPP fraud. Those on the front lines doing the dirty work can make millions, rather. They take it as well. The fraud as a service organizations that give these criminals the tools, data, and means to do so are making far more than that.
Well, okay, so you obviously found a video, so it's not like they're super sneaky. Why don't we shut them down? You know what I mean? Like,
well, finding it is one thing. Shutting them down is another. The dark web isn't like just you're able to go on Google and access it.
Well, I know that. I know. Yeah. But this guy here is making it sound like I know it's a dark thing, and I know identity theft is a big thing and all that, but like he's not telling us exactly what they're doing to combat it. You know what I mean?
Right.
He's just telling us to watch out, to not put our nude pics online and be, which you should never do, and you should be wary of your bank account and all that. But like, come on, Sanchez has got enough money here that he's able to make a commercial, a 58-second commercial.
Now, to give you an idea, Bruiser, as far as sextortion goes,
yeah,
I'll give you they do have a little background on the whole sextortion ring. The FBI has described sextortion as a crime that involves coercing victims into providing sexually explicit photos or videos of themselves and then threatening to share them publicly or with the victim's family and friends. So malicious actors use content manipulation technologies and services to exploit photos and videos, typically captured from an individual's social media account, open internet, or requested from the victim, into sexually themed images that appear true to life in likeness to a victim, then circulate them on social media, public forums, or pornographic websites. Many victims, which have included mirrors, are unaware their images are copied, manipulated, and circulated until it was brought to their attention by someone else. At least a dozen sextortion-related suicides have been reported across the country, according to the latest FBI numbers from this year. Many victims are males between the age of 10 and 17, although there have been victims as young as 7. According to the FBI.
I can't believe there's people out there that want naked pictures of a 7-year-old to extort their family.
Girls have also
what kind of idiot, what kind of monster would do that?
They're out there and they make a lot of money with it. Girls have also been targeted, but the statistics show a higher number of boys have been victimized.
Yeah, because boys are easier manipulated. Like if a girl starts talking to them, and I'm sure they're sharing photos too, not of themselves, but of something they stole from somebody. So the boy's like, oh, I'm getting boob pictures. Cool, I'll send a dick pic. And then once they have that, now they can start their extortion.
Yep, absolutely.
It's a new version of sex trafficking or human trafficking. It's just you don't have the actual physical human, and you have the digital human.
You have the digital human, and then at that point you own them. Yeah. Let's move on. This story is quite shocking. You pretty much put yourself behind the 8 ball as a defendant in a court case when you knock your lawyer out.
Yes, you do.
Yeah. We're going to San Jose, California, where an attack in a courtroom shocks an entire murder trial. A murder trial took a sudden and violent turn when the defendant, Ronell Spencer, attacked his own attorney in a San Jose courtroom just moments before the opening statements were scheduled to begin. Spencer, facing charges related to a deadly 2022 shooting in San Jose, assaulted his Santa Clara County Deputy Public Defender without warning.
Right before opening statements, too, so you don't even know if they're a good lawyer or not.
Right. I mean,
I'm sick of your shit.
Right. And that makes you look horrible as a defendant. I'm sorry.
Oh, it does. It does. Yeah. You're not even giving that guy a chance to show he's a decent lawyer.
Right. Court bailiffs and a prosecutor quickly intervened to subdue Spencer and separate him from his attorney. Fortunately, the attorney was not seriously injured in the attack. The county public defender's office declined to comment on the reported assault. As a result of the assault, there will be a change in legal representation for Spencer. I would hope so.
I would hope so, too.
Yeah. An identification of counsel hearing was scheduled where the county public defender's office was expected to declare a conflict due to the encounter. This change is likely to cause a significant delay in the murder trial, as the new attorney will need time to review the case and prepare a defense.
So this guy just found a way to prolong his trial. Just keep attacking his lawyer.
That's right. Just keep tagging him and then, add 30 to 60 days.
How many public, because you're by law, your rights are, if you can't afford an attorney, one will be appointed to you.
Right.
How many court-appointed attorneys do you have to punch before they just stop giving you attorneys?
That's a good question.
Because I don't think that office is going to be like, oh, yeah, Jim, see what happened to Paul yesterday? Cool. You get to take this case now.
Well, I think eventually they have to bring a court-appointed attorney from different jurisdiction in.
You'd think, right?
Yeah. And then at that point, they assign probably some sort of, I don't know, I'm not saying this from experience, but I got to think that they assign some sort of CO or someone to the attorney so that you're never alone with him, so that there's some sort of protection.
Yeah. That makes sense, too. I never thought about that. Yeah, they keep somebody in there to protect them.
Right.
This isn't helping his murder case either. Like, you're showing violent tendencies before it even happens to somebody that's supposed to be helping you.
Well, and I wonder if they have to excuse the jury pool and pick a new jury pool, because now they've been tainted.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it has to start all over.
Yeah. It has not yet been determined whether Spencer will face additional prosecution for the attack. The county district attorney's office stated that they would make a charging decision after reviewing reports from the sheriff's office, which concluded the investigation. At the time of the reported assault, Spencer was not restrained, as is customary for defendants at trial, to avoid prejudicing the jury. It is unclear whether security practices for Spencer will change in light of the incident. I think it will.
I think it will, too.
Yeah.
Because you got to think about some of the most notorious serial killers. They all come in chained.
Yes. Ronell Spencer, a Chicago resident, has been in jail custody for over a year in connection with the fatal shooting of 27-year-old Antioch resident Jackie Amir Biggins on March 27th, 2022, near 4th and San Carlos Streets across from San Jose State University. This shooting gained notoriety because it occurred near the site of a controversial San Jose police shooting that took place less than an hour later. In the subsequent police shooting incident, Oakland resident Con Green was wounded by an officer after patrons reported a fight and a gun sighting at a nearby taqueria. Green and his attorneys claim he was shot after disarming a man during a brawl he did not initiate, and they have filed a lawsuit against the city and police department. So there you go. Interesting stuff.
Yeah, it is. Very interesting. Now, the two had no relation, right? The officer shooting and then this murder.
Nope.
Just happened in the same spot.
Within an hour of each other.
Pure coincidence. Okay.
Yeah, pure coincidence, yeah. We move on. This sent in to us by a listener as well. By the way, if you have stories for Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals, just send them to tim@darknessradio.com. We enjoy it. We enjoy the heck out of it when you send us stories. This one is unusual, Bruiser. Even I read this one and I had to chuckle. Although it's not really a chuckling matter, you'll get a good chuckle out of it.
Okay.
Okay. This one, police rush to reports of a ritual mass murder, but find out it was just a yoga class. Sometimes people...
I've done some hot yoga where it felt like a ritual murder.
Yeah, where it felt like ritual torture or murder, yeah.
Yeah, I've done the giant DDP yoga, and I wasn't in shape, and I felt like, okay, yep, I'm dying now. This is where I die. And I look over, and there's another guy my age, my weight. He's dying, too. I'm like, good, we're going together, brother.
If we go together. Well, when a yoga teacher turned out the light towards the end of one of her classes in Britain this past week, her hope was to encourage peaceful relaxation, right?
Which makes sense.
Sure.
Namaste.
Namaste. Now you must stay on the floor while the police come in and figure this thing out. What followed could not have been further from her intention. Soon after the class was over, a mass of police sirens shattered the peace as officers raced toward the venue where the class was being held. They were reporting to a call from a member of the public worried that there had been a mass killing at the studio in the small English coastal resort of Chapel St. Leonard's. Millie Laws, who runs Unity Yoga, was teaching the class at the North Sea Observatory in the village, which also doubles as a community space, art gallery, and exercise studio. Seascape Cafe at the observatory described the incident on Wednesday evening of last week in a Facebook post, writing, "If anyone heard the massive police sirens in Chapel St. Leonard's at 9:30 p.m. last night, then please be reassured. They were on their way to the observatory after someone had reported a mass killing in our building, having seen several people lying on the floor."
So I'm assuming they're all doing dead man's pose, which is how you sometimes end a yoga session. And that's just where you lay flat on your back, palms up, feet wide, and you just breathe. And it's supposed to relax you and get all the bad energy out. Mm-hmm. But I don't get why someone would be walking past and look in the room and go, "Oh my God, they're all dead. Quick, call 911.
Somebody just being a little too nosy, I'm sure.
I think so. I think somebody watches a little bit too much true crime programs.
Well, you know what it is? The candles laid out on the floor could have been a ritual mass murder. See, somebody was laying out candles and then sacrificing them to the devil. Come on, Bruiser. It all makes
See, the problem was they were leaving that Jim Jones documentary.
Yeah.
Going home, and they just saw the Jim Jones documentary.
Yeah.
Went past the yoga studio and went, oh my gosh.
And then you know how they keep that cooler of water in the corner? That could have been filled with Kool-Aid. See what it all makes sense.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
It was Flavor Aid, by the way, not Kool-Aid.
Oh, Flavor Aid, sorry. Yeah, we don't want to give Kool-Aid a bad name, do we? So she went on to say, having seen several people laying on the floor, which actually turned out to be the yoga class and meditation. That's how she ended the post. "Dear general public, please be mindful that the observatory has lots of yoga classes," she went on to say, "happening in the evenings. We are not part of any mad cult or crazy clubs." That's how the post continued. In a separate Facebook post on the Unity Yoga page, Laws said that a call to police was triggered after some local dog walkers mistook the scene for a ritual mass murder. In a phone call to CNN on Friday, Laws said that 5 police cars showed up at the venue soon after she and the 7 other class participants had left. She was told about the episode in a phone call from the venue manager. "I was very shocked," she said. "It was so surreal and I didn't quite believe it was true. I've spoken to most of the people who took part and they have just said how mad it is." They're all
alive, so don't worry.
Yeah,
they're all alive.
Yeah, everyone's still alive, although a few of them have some weird stomach issues and feel sickly all the time. Maybe the Flavor Aid was poisoned.
Maybe. You never know.
They were all participating in a beautiful, deep relaxation, just as Bruiser said, and it could have never run through any of our minds that it could be taken in this way. Police confirmed the incident in a statement emailed to CNN last week. It read, "A call was made following concerns for the occupants of the North Sea Observatory at Chapel St. Leonard's. Officers attended and we're happy to report everyone was safe and well. The call was made with good intentions." So there you go.
And the officers all left fully stretched out, ready to take on the day. Brand new chakra, new energy because they took the class.
That's right. That's right.
Yep.
The next 2 stories, Bruiser, are representative of sometimes when you point a gun, you don't do it for the right reasons.
That's 90% of the time when you point a gun, it's not for the right reasons, at least on this show.
Or you're pointing it for a mistaken reason. Okay. Kind of a whoopsie, maybe I went a little too far type deal. You know?
Okay.
We'll start out first in Florida. That figures.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. Where a man was arrested for pointing a gun at 3 Palmetto Ridge High School students.
Well, they're on his lawn.
No, that's the second story.
Okay,
yeah.
We're going. Okay, I gotcha.
Okay, yeah. 3 students from Palmetto Ridge High School reported that a man pointed a gun at them after he drove his truck at their vehicle and forced them into a dead-end street.
What? Okay. Come on, man. Let the teenagers be teenagers.
Well, he was kind of acting like a teenager himself.
He was acting like a dick.
Except he was 40 years old. 40-year-old, highly triggered Armando Maciati was arrested for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and intent to kill. According to the Collier County Sheriff's Office, the 3 juveniles were in their car driving to school when a large white pickup truck approached them aggressively. The student driver stopped the vehicle and began backing up. The truck continued aggressively moving forward until the student had to stop the vehicle due to a canal right behind them. The The suspect then allegedly pointed a gun out the driver's side window. He yelled and cursed at the students, ordering them not to move and stay in the car. The suspect exited his vehicle and approached the students, still holding the handgun. He repeatedly pointed the gun at them as he continued to yell and curse. One of the students rolled down the window and recognized Masiotti as his neighbor. Right? Masiotti said something along the lines of, "Oh, my bad, bro."
Oh, come on.
Right?
So he chased him down, went bumper to bumper, basically pushing him into a canal, gets out, threatens all of them, sees it's his neighbor and goes, "Oh, what's up, man? I got your mail from yesterday.
Yeah.
You're good."
Yeah. No worries. Sorry.
My bad.
My bad, bro.
Let me go put this away.
Yeah.
Have a good day at school.
Don't forget to tell your dad I was just looking out for you.
Yeah. Make sure he returns my weed whacker. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Then Masiotti entered his truck and drove away. Masiotti is currently at Naples jail. There's a shock. WINK, the Wink News, spoke with a neighbor who said he was...
They give some ass journalism.
That's right. It's a wink with one eye. The brown eye. Wink News spoke with a neighbor who said he was shocked to hear about Masiotti. He said Masiotti's always been a good neighbor. 2 of the 3 teens' families have said they plan to press charges.
Well, and he technically is still a good neighbor. He was threatening until he realized it was a neighbor's kid and went, "Oh, okay, cool, my bad." So technically, he's still a good neighbor.
Well, he ain't no State Farm, I'll tell you that.
They didn't give a reason why he did this. He just decided to screw with high school kids.
Yeah,
huh?
he mistaken identity. He must have thought that it was, it must have been the neighbor who borrowed the weed whacker from the neighbor that he borrowed the weed whacker from and never returned it. So
Got it. Gotcha. He's like, "Sorry, Steve. I'll see you next week." Still on for the block party? Cool.
Yeah, good. We're gonna barbecue out on Sunday. We're gonna watch the Buccaneers, right? Beat the Vikings. Yeah, good. We continue to stay in Miami, or not Miami, but Florida. We're going to Fort Myers.
Beautiful retirement community.
Yeah, where again, it's crucial to have a gun in case someone steps on your lawn.
Again, beautiful retirement community.
Yes, Fort Myers, beautiful retirement community. It's where the Twins play spring ball. Fort Myers man was arrested after pointing his gun at construction workers.
Let's let them do their job, man.
The Lee County Sheriff's Office arrested a man after he pointed a gun at 2 construction workers out of fear that they would ruin the grass on his lawn. It took a good long while to get that grass that way, Bruiser.
But the thing is, they'll replace it. Like when they were doing construction across from the house, they ripped up my yard a little bit, but they replaced it completely. Like it looks better now. Like I wish I had ripped up the rest of my lawn.
But only because you had your gun out, right?
Yes, my gun being Ziggy.
Yes, your gun being Ziggy. The incident happened around 9 p.m. last Thursday night at 1050 Southtown and River Drive in the McGregor area of Fort Myers. 2 construction workers were leaving work for the night, attaching their trailer to their truck. That's when they said a man walked outside his home and pointed a gun at them because he was afraid they were going to ruin his grass.
Hank Hill, calm down.
That's right. A report from LCSO said that 62-year-old Timothy DeMars told deputies that he would shoot the construction workers if they ruined his grass. It's not that serious.
It's grass. Like I said, they replace it.
Maybe you should go out and touch that grass every once in a while, Timothy. You'd be just fine.
No, he does. He has the best lawn in his neighborhood. He goes out, he brushes it, he combs it, he makes sweet, sweet love to it. His lawn is everything.
He finds a little hole in the lawn and makes love to it.
Yeah. He's like, you know what? This is my lawn. So you ask him about his wife, she'll be like, "Oh, she's cooking dinner." But you ask him about his lawn, it's a 3-hour story of how great it is.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Deputies found the gun he allegedly pointed at the men on a shelf in his garage, and it was loaded.
Why not?
Yeah. Deputies arrested.
It's not like anybody can break in there and take it.
No. Deputies, they don't dare. They don't dare come out on his lawn. Why would they come in his garage?
Everybody knows you don't go on that guy's lawn.
Yeah. Deputies arrested DeMars, and he's facing charges of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon without intent to kill. He has since bonded out of jail. DeMars's neighbors are shocked things escalated that quickly. One of his neighbors, Carl Moran, says that is unfortunate and completely out of character with this whole area. It's a very quiet area, very peaceful. Everyone seems to have a really short fuse lately. So, I mean, it doesn't take much to get people stressed out. Paula Kiker is another neighbor who said, I've seen him out in the yard and whatnot, never really said anything. Just definitely didn't want to bother him. He's that type. Everybody on the street really got hurt bad by Ian, which is a hurricane.
Yeah.
And I just think people are tired and upset and getting contractors to work and getting work done and getting our lives back together. I just think people are at wit's end.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And plus, you don't want to interrupt a man fucking a garden gnome.
Yeah. Well, those garden gnomes are squirrely,
They are.
Yeah, they get away pretty easy.
I get if you're tired and all that, but like you're literally yelling at the people that are coming to fix what Irene destroyed or Ira or whatever it was.
Yep. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like their job is to get it back to working order.
Yeah. And they're there to help.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, probably put the gun down for a minute and think about them for a second.
Exactly. And plus, what are you going to do? You're going to shoot them, then you go to jail. No, you can't make love to your lawn.
That's right.
They don't give you a lawn in prison.
And that sweet, sweet grass is going to get all out of shape because you're not there to keep it up. Yeah.
Yeah. And your grandson's not going to do anything about it. He's being chased by this other guy.
Yeah. He's getting chased in a truck by a 40-year-old who doesn't know about it. Right.
Let's think this through, Floridians. Come on.
Yeah, come on.
We know you're in God's waiting room waiting.
That's right.
You're
just waiting to die there in God's waiting room.
Just be cool.
You might as well just be cool and get along.
Exactly.
Yeah. This next story is about a really uncool mother of the year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This mother left her children in sweltering heat in the car outside a Walmart store because, every once in a while you just got to run into Walmart and get a few things.
I guess so. I almost watched Mrs. Bruiser destroy a child on her flight back.
Really?
We had a layover in Houston, and then it's like a 2 hour, 45 minute from Houston to Charlotte. And we had this mother sitting next to us who her kid was just, I can't, just something that she had for society.
Yeah.
And I didn't know the whole flight because I had my headphones on or whatever. This kid was up and down. He had to be about 4.
Okay.
Up and down, playing his music on his phone without his headphones, kicking seats, tripping the stewardess, our flight attendants, just being a holy terror.
Yeah.
And all the mom did was keep updating her OnlyFans.
Oh, she had an OnlyFans.
Yep. And she was proud to show everybody.
Oh, really?
She was talking to everybody but the kid.
Oh.
Yeah, Mrs. Bruiser was like, I'm going to beat your child. Like, I'm going to beat you with your child. And Mrs. Bruiser loves kids.
Did Mrs. Bruiser ask to see the OnlyFans before she beat the child?
No, she saw the OnlyFans because the lady was literally just, showing everybody.
Oh, okay. All right.
And Mrs. Bruiser made the comment, like, instead of doing OnlyFans, maybe you take care of your only child.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. I love the segue there. That was good. It's a good transition.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. So she almost beat a child.
I'm just wondering, in punitive damages, how much is the OnlyFans lady going to sue for once Mrs. Bruiser beats the snot out of the kid?
Yeah. Mrs. Bruiser's usually pretty tolerable. This was definitely ranks up to Mother of the Year, not sweltering heat Mother of the Year.
Right. No, I hear you.
OnlyFans over taking care of your child.
Yeah. Did you ask her how we get our OnlyFans site up and going while you were there?
Oh, she gave it to everybody.
Oh.
The flight attendant came over to tell her to get her child to sit down.
Yeah.
And all that. And she's like, yeah, he's okay. If you want, check out my OnlyFans page. It's this on OnlyFans.
Oh, wow. So
she said it to the gay male flight attendant.
who I'm sure was real interested in
yeah, I think he was more interested in my OnlyFans than her OnlyFans.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Gave me an extra cookie.
He gave you an extra cookie, did you?
Oh, yeah. I didn't have to give him my OnlyFans.
Yeah, look at that. Bruiser.
He might also have been fearing for his life because my wife was threatening a child.
Yeah. He's probably like, you might want to settle her down there.
Yeah, you have to go home with her. Here's another cookie.
Here's another cookie just to keep her calm. Yeah. I see what he did.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah. Well, this Mother of the Year left her child in a sweltering car outside a Walmart store after being arrested for leaving her 2 children alone. Oh, it was a twofer.
It was a twofer. Okay, she is Mother of the Year.
Yeah. After leaving her 2 children alone in a locked, sweltering vehicle outside a Walmart store, a woman asked cops to turn up the air conditioning in the patrol car, taking her to jail for child abuse. So she didn't want to be in a sweltering car. She wanted it to be nice and air conditioned.
Yeah, come on. If you're taking me to jail, turn the air out.
That's right.
What do you think I have? My children?
Oh, see, I don't have the.
You have the. Dun, dun.
Yeah, it's this one. Yeah, there we go, right there. Police say the victims, aged 3 and 6, were left in the vehicle without the engine running, windows closed, and parked in the sun on black asphalt. But yeah, they'll do it. That's torture. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, take your kids with you.
Yeah. That, according to criminal complaints, which note the temperature outside the St. Petersburg, Florida store was 91 degrees.
So it's going to be like triple that inside that car after a while.
You pretty much could bake an easy bake oven cake in about 6 minutes in that car.
Yeah. Yeah, you could.
Yeah. The children had been in the car for more than 20 minutes. Bruiser.
Oh, my gosh.
20 minutes before fire and rescue personnel arrived. At that time, Nyakobo Mar, who was 30 years old, returned to her automobile and was subsequently arrested on a pair of felony child abuse counts, as she should be.
Yes. Some people need a license to have kids.
Yes. She was also charged with resisting, a misdemeanor for allegedly struggling with cops who sought to handcuff her.
And I bet you the whole time she's like, I know my rights. I know my rights. I'm not resisting. Yes, you are.
Probably. Mar, police say, did not show concern for either child's health, but did ask for air conditioner in the cruiser to be turned up for herself. Not talking about this cruiser either.
I'm a little hot. Even though I resisted everything and I almost killed my children, can you please turn the air up a smidge? I'm uncomfortable. Self-entitled twat.
The name of our new album.
Yes, it is.
Yes, self-entitled twat. The children were transported to a local hospital for treatment. Child welfare officials were contacted since there are no family or friends in the area. Mar had recently resided right here in the great state of Minnesota.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We'll send them back to Minnesota to somebody that can raise them better.
Yeah, exactly.
To put it into perspective for the listeners, if I go do a sauna therapy, you're not allowed to be in the sauna more than 20 minutes because you could die.
Right.
That's essentially what these kids were in.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a picture of Mar for you if you'd like to see it, Bruiser.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I'm guessing
I hope she's not sweating because, they got to put the air on.
I'm guessing
Hot.
I'm guessing she can't survive 20 minutes in a hot car either. She did admit post Miranda to this offense on video, reported Officer Darren Knoop. Mar, who is scheduled for a court appearance, is being held in the county jail in lieu of $20,500 bond. That is what Mar looks like there.
Oh, God.
Do you think she has a low heat tolerance?
She looks like a melting Tootsie Roll.
She looks like a melting Tootsie Roll. She looks like she could probably play line for the Vikings, and Cousins would have had all day to stand back there and throw on Sunday.
Yeah.
Just saying. I'm not disparaging her. I'm just saying that she probably did need some air conditioning on the way to the police station.
And I bet you any money, those kids don't eat. She eats everything.
Yep.
So I'm sure this wasn't the first abuse those kids have seen.
Yeah. Which is sad. When the Twinkies and Ho-Hos come home, guess who gets first shot at them?
Exactly.
It ain't the kids. Yep. Speaking of delicious treats, we're going to get into some throwing stories here, I believe.
Ooh.
Yes. The next few stories have the theme of throwing things.
I saw I think he was homeless. Man throwing feces at a wall saying he's creating art in New Orleans.
You caught me with a mouthful of liquid when you said that.
Yeah, we were walking someplace and my daughter goes, that guy's throwing some against the wall. And the guy looked at us and goes, it's shit. My art is shit. And he's throwing it against the wall and smearing it around. And he had a hat out. So he was expecting tips.
At least he didn't put his hand out to get the tips.
No, he had a hat out. Wasn't wearing gloves, by the way.
Oh, good. Well, he likes to get nice and close to his art.
I don't know if it was his feces or somebody else's feces, but he said it was shit. So you could smell it.
Yeah, well, I bet you could. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know how Bourbon Street smells. This is right off Bourbon. So.
Yeah. Well, so much for taking him over to the Crystal and buying him a meal. You got to wash your hands first, sir. No, I'm fully immersed in my art.
We had water with us that we were giving to the homeless just because we didn't have cash or anything like that. But we wanted it was hot, so we were going to give them bottles of water. And so my youngest looks at me and goes, "How close can I get to give him this water bottle?" I go, "Honey, he's fine. Don't worry, he doesn't need water.
He doesn't. No.
We'll just keep going. Let him do his thing.
If he can still produce quote unquote paint, he ain't
he doesn't
suffering.
need the water. We'll go find another one."
Boy, what do you do if you're having one of those days where maybe the medium's a little liquid and not so much a solid?
You change your art form. You go from oil paints to watercolors.
I guess that's right. That's one of those Jackson Pollock days where it just splatters all over the place.
Yeah, you go from molding clay to, like I said, watercolor.
You go from building a statue to making a Jackson Pollock painting. Just saying. Anyway,
I was curious as we were walking away. I'm like, do we go into the building he's painting on and tell him, hey, there's a guy
throwing shit at your building?
Yeah, like Mrs. Bruiser's like, we walk away and we just enjoy the rest of our day. I'm like, but there's so many questions.
Yeah, look at you. There's so many questions. I have so many questions as to how he found his art. What inspires him? Who is his muse?
Why does he have to throw it? Why can't he just spread it?
Yeah. What is it? Who came up with that artistic technique? What did he like?
New Banksy?
Was he a big fan of Nolan Ryan? I have to know.
Instead of Banksy, he's Butsy.
Butsy, yes. Butsy. You need one of these. Butsy.
I mean, he was gone the next day. His artwork was gone too. So.
Oh, I bet.
I don't know what happened.
A power washer and some bleach. That's what happened.
Oh. Yeah, I had so many questions. What?
My art is shit. Yeah, you're right. You certainly are right, sir. It is shit. Yeah. New Orleans.
It never fails to entertain.
Boy, you got your money's worth, buddy. I'll tell you.
I'm going to go in more detail tomorrow, but yeah, we got our money's worth on a lot of things, and that one would just stuck out, and I was waiting somehow. But throwing stuff, that's how we got here.
Wait, babe. Okay. Well, these next couple of stories we dedicate to the shit painter. To Butsy. Yeah, to Butsy. That's right. To Butsy. We start off.
I really hope next week on our Dumb Crime Stupid Criminals, they arrest somebody from New Orleans
for throwing shit
in public. Yeah. You and I'll be like, oh, hey.
That's Butsy. I know him. I almost bought some of his art.
It was a shit price, though.
It was just one bottle of Dulcolax. That's all he wanted.
That's it.
He felt like he needed to create more.
You want more red beans and rice? You get pottery coming up.
Pottery. I feel the need to make a bowl, get me some crawfish. Yeah. So we go to Florida again.
Okay.
Where a man is arrested for a Snickers fusillade. Unfortunately, the poor workers at Walgreens were struck at 1:20 a.m. in the morning by airborne candy, Snickers to be exact.
Is this going to be the new Snickers commercial?
Yes.
You're a criminal when you're hungry.
Snickers satisfies, especially when you bean people in the head with them. A Florida man was arrested early on September 5th after allegedly pelting a pair of Walgreens workers with Snickers bars during a 1:20 a.m. confrontation.
Because why not?
The employees were not injured in the candy fusillade, as they should not be. Cops say if you get injured by a Snickers bar, I don't care if it's, I don't care if it's that the kid who closes for the Twins who throws 104 miles an hour. I mean,
but if it's frozen.
Well, even if it's frozen, I mean, you shouldn't be, that injured. You get a bruise.
Yeah. You think Snickers uses that as their sales pitch? Not is it delicious? It won't hurt you.
Even this delicious Snickers thrown at 104 miles an hour won't hurt you.
You're our Twins closer to prove it.
Okay, hold still. I'm going to throw this at you. Ding!
I'm Johnny Knoxville, and this is Hurt by a Snickers.
Hurt by a Snickers. Welcome to Jackass. It does seem like a Jackass skit, doesn't it?
It does.
Boom, 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 boom. The cops say that, oh boy, here's the name here. Idel Noy Quesada, 23 years old.
I don't think he's from Florida.
And loves throwing candy. Evidently, we're close to that Halloween season,
Yeah.
Tangled with workers after unsuccessfully trying to buy cigarettes at a Walgreens store in Clearwater. Noy Quesada had shown a photo of an ID card, but was refused service due to the business's policy, according to a criminal complaint. Who shows a photo of their ID card?
Why not just carry your ID card around?
Yeah. Denied
it's not hard.
Yeah, it's not. Denied his smokes, Noy Quesada reportedly became irate and began throwing Snickers bars at a female employee who was hit in the face by the airborne candy. I wonder if he's got an arm on him.
Oh, I wonder.
Yeah.
Well, he's fiending for nicotine, so he's probably throwing it harder than he normally would.
Well, probably. So the female employee was hit in the face by the airborne candy, which, according to the smoking gun, contains nougat, caramel, and peanuts, all of which are enrobed in milk chocolate. The first time I've used the word enrobed all year.
Thank you, Smoking Gun, for breaking down what is in a Snickers bar.
Yep. A second worker then told Noy Quesada to leave the store, but he refused. Instead, Noy Quesada, who appeared intoxicated, there's a switch, allegedly threw several Snickers bars at the other Walgreens employee, striking him in the chest. But he's Superman, so he let them bounce off.
He's like in Christopher Reeve in the first one, he's just standing there.
Yeah.
Boo! Boo!
You can't hurt me with your Snickers.
The Walgreens guy actually doing the Matrix, where he's like dodging each Snickers bar that comes past him. Throws a Reese's at him. That's how he disarms them.
By the way, did you see Keanu Reeves on Ride with Norman Reedus?
No, I heard it was pretty good though.
Yeah, it is. Although I think he's kind of taking the Matrix stuff a little too seriously.
I believe that. He's a weird cat.
He is a weird cat. Yeah.
He just randomly will take subways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody told me that story. Like if you go to New York, any of the big cities that have like trolleys or subways, he just randomly will ride them.
Yeah. God bless Norman Reedus for putting up with him. That's all I can say. It was. I
like Norman Reedus. He's a great guy.
Yeah. It was a random episode, but it was good. Yeah. Back to the story. While Noy Quesada claimed he didn't mean to throw the candy at the second worker, surveillance footage shows that he was very intentional, where he directed the Snickers bars.
He didn't mean to throw it at the second worker. First one, bitch, deserved it.
Yeah, she had it coming. Yeah. Additionally, two of the defendant's cousins corroborated the female worker's statement that Noy Quesada threw Snickers bars at her. Noy Quesada was arrested on a pair of misdemeanor battery counts. He was booked into the county jail, from which he was released Monday morning. How much bond, Bruiser, do you get for throwing Snickers bars at Walgreens workers?
$1,500.
Go a little lower.
$750.
Go a little higher.
Let's go $925.63.
You are so close. It's $1,000 bond to hit two Walgreens employees with Snickers bars. So you can a lot of Snickers. You can throw quite a few Snickers. That's Noy
He's so happy in his mugshot.
He is, isn't he? He's just like, yeah, I've been throwing Snickers at people. I just wanted cigarettes.
Maybe he's happy because he's going to prison and they have cigarettes in prison.
Well, they do, yeah. But you gotta do things for him.
Well, he knows how to throw Snickers bars.
You want to, guys? Want to see me throw a Snickers bar? I can throw it real far.
Go stand over there. I bet I can hit you. Bet you 3 cigarettes. I can hit you in the shoulder.
Here's an idea. I want you to toss something else off. for a few cigarettes.
Oh, you'll be doing that later.
That's right. We go to Massachusetts for this next story as we continue our throwing spree.
Good old Boston.
Boston. We're going to East Longmeadow,
Ah, okay.
where women threw bowling balls during a brawl at a bowling alley.
Why not? They're there.
That's right. 10 to 15 people fighting chairs and bowling balls were being thrown through the air, according to this person. They called it absolute chaos. This is how police described a large-scale brawl that broke out at a bowling alley in East Longmeadow late on Friday and ended with multiple individuals being arrested. So just imagine there's a little brawl at a bowling alley there in East Longmeadow, Bruiser, and you see chairs being thrown, bowling balls being thrown, people fighting.
Cigarette machines being thrown.
Yeah.
People fighting.
Looks
all
like-
because somebody was over the line.
Over the line. That's right. And they didn't take a stroke for it.
Exactly. They're over the line. League rules say you are over the line.
Police responded shortly after 10:20 p.m. to a report of several people fighting inside the Shaker Bowl bowling alley. Shaker Bowl.
Good old Shaker Bowl. I didn't know bowling was still a big thing. I thought it kind of went the way of the mall.
No, you know what? The kids are bringing it back.
They are. Okay. Well, good for them.
Yep.
I remember being in a bowling league as a kid.
The kids love the bowling. Yep. Fighting inside the Shaker Bowl bowling alley at Shaker Road, believe it or not, which offers regular bowling and not candlepin bowling. They're hardcore.
So they're going serious. This is definitely where over the line is a thing.
Yep. One toke over the line. Sweet Jesus. Officer Zachary Paremba was the first to arrive at the scene and described it in his report as absolute chaos with 10 to 15 people actively fighting and chairs and bowling balls flying through the air in all directions. Everywhere but on the alleys. According to a Facebook post from the East Longmeadow Police Department, Paremba quickly restrained and handcuffed two different women, which I bet he had fun doing that, who he allegedly saw raise bowling balls over their heads to throw at others. Boy, those are some tough chicks.
Yeah, they want to fight.
Yeah.
They're feisty little girls.
Yeah. Officers Nicholas Ottoson arrived at the bowling alley shortly after and detained another woman who he described as being an active aggressor in the fight, according to a department statement. First responders evaluated multiple people for injuries, but ultimately there were no serious wounds found on anyone, probably because it's easy to dodge a bowling ball coming at you. Don't know if you've ever tried, but you have a few seconds to get out of the way.
If you dodge a bowling ball, you can dodge a ball.
That's right. However, some individuals were minorly injured, according to the statement. Officers spoke with multiple witnesses and arrested three Springfield women, ages 19, 19, and 21.
You're right. The kids are bringing it back.
Kids are bringing it back on multiple charges, including assault and battery by a dangerous weapon and disorderly conduct. They're expected to be arraigned in Palmer District Court at a future date. The department went on to issue a statement saying this is an ongoing investigation and it is possible other participants could be charged in the future as well. While at the bowling alley investigating the brawl, police located a vehicle in the parking lot that had been reported stolen in Springfield. That vehicle was towed and the circumstances surrounding how it arrived there remain under investigation. So they got a stolen car out of the deal too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hey man, let's go steal his car. That's cool, dude. But at 9 o'clock, I got to be at my league. This is the league.
It's league night, man.
I'll get you there.
Yeah.
When the fight breaks out. Like, dude, what do we do with the stolen car?
They took the car, man. Well, we got to walk. Yep. Speaking of things that have been stolen, what's the weirdest thing you could think you could steal and get still caught with and charged with a felony?
I once stole a newspaper box, a Newsweek newspaper box.
That got you a felony?
No. But I was told that if I didn't return it, I was told by my friends that if I didn't return it, it could be a felony.
Really?
Yeah, because there's money in it, I guess.
Huh.
I didn't know there was money in it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I was told that. So I went through a phase when I was younger where if it wasn't nailed down, I'd take it. My whole intention was what we did was I was taking road construction signs.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. And the little blinking signs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we took those,
Yeah.
and then we actually closed off an exit.
Okay. All
I
right.
stole so much stuff that I actually closed an exit. For 3 days, this exit was closed, and there was no construction going on whatsoever. It was just me and my buddies put it out.
That's kind of
through
funny.
a lot of it.
That's kind of funny.
Yeah, there's a little rich neighborhood where I grew up, and let's just say the last word and I'm not gonna give the neighborhood away, but the last word is Pines.
Okay.
Well, they now if you go look at the words, they're cemented in and bolted in. Mm-hmm. But at the time, they were just like staked in. Mm-hmm. So for a while, it was penis because we moved around the letters. So then I stole this newspaper box, and that's when my buddy goes, dude, this is too far. So what do you mean? He goes, this is a felony because there's money in it. Yeah. I was like, there's money in it? He's like, yeah. Like, how do you think people get the paper? I was like, oh, okay. So we returned it.
Oh, there you go. Okay. So
we didn't return it to where it belonged. We put it on the other side of town.
Your blatant crime spree was at an end at that point, huh?
I still did other stuff, but yeah.
you went from being Robin Hood to just Robin at that point.
Exactly.
Okay.
Plus, my buddy said, "What are we going to do with a newspaper box?
Yeah,
like,
true.
We can't refill it. Yeah. We take the money out of it, then we got whatever the money is in there." He's like, "At least the road construction and stuff was fun because we could drive past it and be like, oh, look, it's still closed."
Yeah.
And then the Pine sign we drove past, of course, it said penis, which we thought was funny. And it made the paper.
There you go. You made the paper.
Yeah, I actually have. When Mrs. Bruiser and I first met, we were moving to our first apartment. She found the newspaper clipping. She goes, "Why are you keeping this?" I go, "That was me and my buddy."
We went down in notoriety.
Yeah, we all got it.
Nice.
She's like, "I remember that as a kid." I'm like, "Yep, that was us."
That was us. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, so naughty, but so good.
I do not endorse any of that now.
Yeah.
Now that I'm older,
no.
I have my own house.
Yeah.
I have
You're a tax-paying citizen. Yep.
If it's not yours, leave it alone.
That's right.
I drive now, so I know what it's like when exits are closed for no reason.
Although that is classic.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I have a story here from Hawaii where 2 men were charged with felony agriculture theft.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
This, I believe, because Papa Bruiser, when they moved into their Arizona home, took my son and I out. And he's like, we're just going to dig up some cactuses. I want some cactuses for the front yard. We're like, perfect. So we got about 5 or 6. Mm-hmm. We get back, we're planting, and Mama Bruiser comes out and goes, what are you guys doing? We're like, oh, Papa wanted cactuses, so we went and got some cacti. And she goes, it's a felony. They're protected in the state of Arizona. You cannot remove cactuses. And I looked at Papa. I go, did you know this? He goes, oh, of course. I go, you took your grandson on a felony? Never mind me. You took your grandson?
Right.
He's like, it's the desert. Nobody's going to notice. I'm like, I don't care.
Yikes. That's
so
funny.
I can see felony agriculture.
Well, 41-year-old Kellen Tolentino and 38-year-old Joshua Redding Kellogg, both of Hanoka, not Anoka, but Hanoka, were arrested and charged with the theft of over 75 pounds of oranges from a Kalopa farm.
Oh, wow.
Evidently, scurvy is still a thing in Hawaii. I don't know why you would want oranges. On Tuesday, both men made their initial appearances in Hilo District Court. Both were later released on supervised release over prosecutors' objections in order to return for preliminary hearings in South Kohala District Court. Kohala District Court. There you go. My mouth ain't working the way it's supposed to. That's what she said.
You don't got the Samoan words down, do you?
I don't know. I don't have the Samoan words down. On September 19th, that's when they're supposed to reappear. As the complaints alleged, Tolentino and Redding Kellogg were each charged with theft in the second degree obtained and or exerted unauthorized control over the property of another, oranges, the value of which exceeded $100 but did not exceed $20,000, and the weight exceeded 25 pounds, and criminal trespass in the second degree. The more serious offense, theft in the second degree, is a Class C felony offense, which carries a penalty of either a 5-year prison term or 4 years probation and up to 12 months in jail. The charges are merely allegations, and the defendants are presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty. The case was led by Officer Dion Santiago of the Hamakua Patrol, Hawaii Police Department. The case is still prosecuted by Deputy Prosecuting Attorney Georgia Barenberg. Oranges, Bruiser.
I'm glad that they formed that orange task force.
Yeah, I'm glad they have that up and running because, by God, the entire island would fall apart.
Well, if you're driving in Florida, you always got the people under the underpass selling you oranges. They got to come from someplace.
They come from Hawaii, yes.
Well, I've never been to Hawaii, so I don't know if they do that in Hawaii.
It's true. This next story has to do with why we should probably beat our kids more often, and probably has to do with everything of, you know what? I think younger parents are probably assholes these days and don't let their kids have puppies.
Yeah. Okay.
I really do think parents are getting more and more lazy.
100%.
Yeah. I mean, they probably don't let their kids have a lot. And this is why. I'm going to cite this story from Golden Valley, Minnesota next.
If it's not digital, parents don't give it to their kids.
Right. Because,
and that's wrong.
Because they're afraid that they're going to be the ones having to take care of it. So they don't want the responsibility.
Yeah.
Here's an example of why you let your kid have a dog.
I'm all for it.
You ready for this?
Yep.
A teen nephew of a Golden Valley homeowner is charged with robbery in the theft of a car. First of all, they never let the kid have a car. And second, robbing a litter of puppies from them.
Oh, geez.
So that tells me two things. They never let the kid have the car on the Saturday night.
Yep.
And they never let the kid have a puppy.
And they never punished the kid for anything because he didn't know that stealing and everything would lead to jail.
That's right. That's right. According to prosecutors, the homeowners were bound by duct tape by 18-year-old Jahan Lynch while they were robbed of valuables and 8 American Bully puppies.
Okay. Again, if you're going to steal something, don't get it that can be traced back. It's not hard to trace 8 bully puppies to somebody. You have to take care of them, for one.
Right.
But for two, it's such a niche market. You know what I mean? It's not hard to find. It's not like you can go on Facebook Marketplace and say, hey, found these puppies.
But again, this is probably an 18-year-old kid who, you know, he was denied a bunch of stuff growing up and told no all the time because parents were lazy.
Yeah. And his parents never punished him for everything. Oh, are your feelings hurt? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, did you get into a fight at school today? Well, it wasn't your fault, Junior. It was theirs.
Yep.
Oh, no, you can't have a puppy, but here's a Digipet.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, here's Nintendo Wii puppies. Take care of a puppy on there.
Yep.
Oh, you want to play Grand Theft Auto? Go ahead. Play Grand Theft Auto for 6 hours a day.
Yeah. Yep. That's exactly what it was. A Robbinsdale man is facing robbery charges in connection with a Golden Valley home invasion in August, in which the alleged thieves got away with over $100,000 in valuables. On Thursday, 18-year-old Jahan Lynch was charged in Hennepin County with 1 count of first-degree robbery stemming from the August 26th incident. According to court documents, the felony charge carries a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison and or $35,000 if convicted. The criminal
give him the full 20.
I say, yeah, do it.
He'll get out when he's 38. He'll actually learn a lesson.
Yeah, he'll probably get out earlier. They'll probably give him the minimum.
I'm saying, but schedule, say, hey, how's your feelings now, asshole?
Yeah, exactly. The criminal complaint filed Thursday said Lynch, a nephew of one of the homeowners, was at the residence on the 6300 block of Medicine Lake Road when he went outside to check on some noises. The complaint said that when Lynch returned, he entered the home with 3 other people, allegedly wearing masks and carrying guns. According to prosecutors, Lynch proceeded to bound the 2 homeowners with duct tape while allegedly threatening to kill them if they didn't provide a combination to their safe. One of the homeowners claimed Lynch was also carrying a firearm. Court records say the suspects not only made off with valuables like jewelry and electronics, but also allegedly took 8 Merle American Bully puppies and a 2019 Dodge Challenger.
It's a nice car.
It is a nice car. A warrant for Lynch's arrest is currently active, citing the violent nature of the incident, the familial relationship between Lynch and one of the victims, and the fact that Lynch is aware that the victims filed a police report. So,
I'm surprised they didn't get him with domestic since he had a family member in there.
Yeah. I say throw the book at him.
I agree.
Yeah.
And whoever family member that is, go back to his parents. Go, what the hell, man?
Yeah.
Like, spank the kid.
Yep. Yeah. It's obvious it's a kid who always heard no.
It's sad that nowadays kids are just an accessory.
Mm-hmm.
Remember in the early 2000s when having like a purse dog was the accessory, and everyone felt bad for those dogs because Paris Hilton and all of them had it. That's what children have become.
Yep.
They're an accessory now. They're not a responsibility. They're an accessory, and that's sad because these kids are going to grow up like this. They're not going to know right from wrong because your purse doesn't know right from wrong.
Yeah, and they're going to think they could just walk into people's homes and take things. Yeah.
Like I'm your parent first and foremost. I'll be your friend later. Like I'm happy now I'm in that part of my relationship with my kids where I can be their friend. But when they were kids, they hated me. Because guess what? You get in trouble, you pay the consequences.
Yeah.
You're damn right you're not going to that party because you did this. You're damn right you're not driving today because you did this. You can scream you hate me all you want, but guess what? 5-6 years from now, we're going to be in New Orleans having a good time. And you're going to be a good human being that has a steady job, pays their taxes, and doesn't get in trouble.
That's right. But you know what? I'm going to make you sit there and watch Butsy paint his shit all over a wall, and we're going to laugh about it.
Where was Butsy's parents when he was growing up?
That's right. You know what? Butsy's parents might have been encouraging his art.
They might have. Look at that.
I bet you at a young age, he was smearing his shit all over the crib.
And the mom's like, Butsy, these are so beautiful.
Yeah. You ought to be an art.
You ought to be an artist.
Yeah. I bet you that's what happened to Butsy when he was young.
Yep.
And he never stopped.
Never
stopped. Speaking of never stopping, this next story has to do with an Adelaide man who was charged after allegedly driving a stolen scissor lift and driving himself down Hindley Street.
Those don't go very fast.
They don't, but they're fun.
They are. They're a lot of fun. I love playing with scissor lifts.
Yeah. An Adelaide man has been charged after being caught riding a stolen scissor lift down a popular Adelaide party strip last week. At about 4 a.m., police security officers were monitoring the CBD's CCTV and saw the 26-year-old, he's a youngin', he evidently can't handle his liquor either, was driving the scissor lift down Hindley Street. Police said the vehicle was stolen from a construction site before it was driven along the King William Street, Curry Street, and Lay Streets. The Lightsview man returned a blood alcohol of how much, Bruiser? How drunk do you think you have to be driving a scissor lift?
I'm going to say twice the legal limit, so 0.16.
Ooh, that's a little high. Bring it down just a little bit.
Okay, let's go Let's go 0.10. 0.10.
Okay, kind of go a little bit in the middle. Kind of
0.13.
There you go. 0.138. This guy was hammered.
Yeah, he was. But you know what? He lives on the 3rd floor. He didn't want to walk up the stairs.
That's right.
So he figured just scissor lift himself up to his window and climb in.
That's right. He was charged with illegal use of a motor vehicle, drink driving, and driving an unregistered and uninsured motor vehicle. What was he supposed to do? Bring it over to Progressive and say, hey.
He's supposed to call some insurance agent. Hey, I'm going to steal this scissor lift. How do I get it covered?
Yeah, how can I cover this so I can drive it home?
They don't bundle that, do they?
No, they don't bundle that with home and auto and and all that other fun stuff. He was also issued an instant loss of license for 6 months. So he lost his license for 6 months on top of it.
Yep.
Yeah. He was bailed.
Enjoy the public transit or riding a bike.
That's right. He was bailed to appear in Adelaide's magistrates court in November. So he'll face a magistrates court where the judge will then look at him and go, crikey, how do you drive that scissor lift? He'll get instructions then. This next story was, speaking of driving strange things, was sent to us by a listener, so thank you so much. A Florida man was riding a human-sized hamster wheel in the Atlantic Ocean.
Oh, okay.
But now he's facing federal charges for that.
What?
Yeah. It's kind of funny how some of this stuff works. You just can't take off on a human-sized hamster wheel and not get charged.
Really? See, I thought you could just do that.
No.
Well, I'm going to cancel my my human-sized hamster wheel then.
Yeah, you probably should. A Florida man who was attempting to cross the Atlantic Ocean in a man-made hamster wheel is facing federal charges after it took the U.S. Coast Guard 5 days to bring him ashore. That according to a criminal complaint filed in Miami.
Cruiser, if we're ever drinking together,
Yeah.
which we do, we've done.
Yeah.
You know, I've had a couple of beers.
Oh, yeah.
If I ever come up to you and say, Cruiser,
Yeah.
take my human hamster wheel, I'm going to go straight across the Atlantic Ocean.
Okay.
Please talk me out of it.
I will. I will. I'll just say, remember, buddy, federal charges.
Like, I got all this beef jerky. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, no, it's not worth it. Not unless you make it straight to the king's palace. Because, Camilla's a relative. I can maybe arrange a sleepover. You might be able to get asylum. But other than that.
It's getting there.
Yeah. The Coast Guard spotted 51-year-old. Well, they're in the same age range as us. I mean, maybe you just go batshit crazy at the end of your life and think you can do stuff like this.
When my CTE kicks in, just talk me out of it. All right?
I'm going to be the one to talk you out of it. It's not going to be
please.
Mrs. Bruiser. It's going to be me. You're going to rely on me to talk you out of shit. I see. The Coast Guard spotted 51-year-old Reza Ray Bellucci some 70 miles or 112 kilometers off the coast of Tybee Island, Georgia on August 26th. Boy, they made it a long way out. Well,
70 miles, that's quite a haul.
While making preparations for Hurricane Franklin, the complaint filed in federal court said Bellucci was charged Tuesday with obstruction of boarding and violating a captain of the port order.
That's an international crime, too.
Yeah.
Because that's international waters.
Boy, you know something, Bruiser? I've always wanted to violate a captain of the port order, if you know what I'm saying there. Yeah. Bellucci.
Wait, so technically, he's an international criminal.
Yeah.
That's a pretty cool title.
That is, isn't it? Yeah.
Just don't tell people how you got it.
Right. You can't really brag about it when they throw you in the brig.
Right.
Yeah. Bellucci told the Coast Guard crew that he was attempting to ride the hydropod vessel to England. See?
Yeah. Camille.
He's got to meet Camilla. Yep. The Queen Consort. And that he had a Florida registration, which he was unable to locate for them on board. Well, probably because
he forgot his ID. Yeah.
It's been going around and around in that little wheel. And it's hard to catch when it's going around and around like that. The officer.
He didn't think he needed his ID. He thought, once I get to England, they're just going to give me all the beer I want.
They're going to see that huge vessel and they're just going to load them up with food and beer.
Yeah. And be like, you did what? Awesome. Welcome to our country.
Welcome, Mike. The officer said the vessel was afloat as a result of. The officer said the vessel was afloat as a result of wiring and buoys and determined that Bellucci was conducting a manifestly unsafe voyage.
Well, no shit.
Do you really think a hamster wheel is going to be the safest thing to put out on the water?
Yeah, exactly.
As long as he's afloat. When they attempted to get him to leave the vessel, Bellucci told them that he had a knife and threatened to harm himself. Oh, that's a good plan.
He wanted to go to England bad.
That's the Naked Gun plan right there.
Yeah, it is.
I'll kill myself. Coast Guard Special Agent Michael A. Perez wrote that in a complaint. The next day, Bellucci threatened to blow himself up when the Coast Guard approached him again about leaving the vessel. Boy, he really knows how to hold them off, doesn't he?
I was going to say, as a Coast Guard, you're questioning, does he have explosives on that thing? Why would he need explosives? What is flammable on that thing?
I don't know. When officers saw Bellucci holding wires, they contacted the U.S. Navy Explosive Ordnance Disposal Unit to help them determine the blast radius of the bomb.
This guy came prepared.
The U.S. just looked at it and went, nah, give it a shot. Let's see what happens.
If you're going to blow up, fine. Let us get at a safe distance.
We'll back up 150, 200 feet and let them do it. On August 28th, the Coast Guard cutters Campbell and Valiant arrived on scene to offer support, and they launched a small boat to deliver food and water and to give Bellucci predictions of the hurricane. That was nice of them.
Yeah.
They again ordered Bellucci off the vessel, and he refused, but he told them that the bomb was not real. Oh, that was nice of him. On August 29th.
Hey, yesterday I told you about that bomb. Yeah, my bad. Turns out not real at all.
Thanks for the food and water, though, guys. Appreciate it.
And the hurricane update.
Yeah, and the hurricane update. Thanks. Appreciate it. You're the best. On August 29th, the Coast Guard successfully removed Bellucci from the vessel. My guess is there was some force there. And on September 1st, he was brought to the Coast Guard base in Miami Beach. Bellucci attempted a voyage in a similar homemade vessel in 2014, according to the complaint. In 2015, he was served a captain of the port order from the Coast Guard that applied to any subsequent voyages. Bellucci filed to comply with the order and was interdicted in a homemade vessel in 2016. He attempted
Someone buy this guy a cruise to England.
Right?
Like, seriously, this guy just wants to go to England. Buy him a cruise.
Right. He attempted another voyage in 2021, and the Coast Guard intervened then as well. His attorney, Mickey Bloom, did not immediately respond Thursday to an email from the Associated Press. Court records show Bellucci posted how much bond for this whole thing, Bruiser?
It's got to be up there. I'm going to say $500,000.
A little less.
It's $100,000.
Little more.
$300,000.
You're close. $250,000.
But they need to extradite this guy to, like, Idaho. Like, where he has no access to ocean at all.
Somewhere where he's landlocked.
Hey, you're going to Oklahoma. Enjoy.
You're not really going anywhere, but you are. You're plenty of land to explore. No ocean.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're the furthest away from England we can get you.
And we're going to get you a British guide so you can hear the accent and pretend you're there, but you're not.
We're going to get you a Netflix account, just let you listen to The Crown over and and over again.
So you're there, but you're not. Enjoy. Our next story has to do with, a place I just came from, Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan.
Oh, okay,
I have a feeling this is one of the people who was at the conference that was at Michigan Paracon. It says here they have an update on the story. A Florida man's motive is unknown in an arson and shooting at the Michigan State Police Department in Sault Ste. Marie.
But
at their post.
Well, you said it was busy. I saw that exchange between you and Adam Berry about how you were both there, but you were both so busy.
Oh, yeah.
It was literally just a wave across the room. So somebody could have snuck out and done this.
I think so. I think somebody from Florida came to cause trouble during the whole deal. Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, hey, Tim Dennis, you do dumb crime, stupid criminals, huh?
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Yeah. Let's leave you with a story here, I think is what they said. Yeah.
He's like, I got you, cruiser.
Yeah. Well, not literally got you, cruiser. They got a cruiser. They got a police cruiser in this deal. They mixed up the terminology.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. A Michigan State Police lieutenant said he was shocked after 3 patrol cars were destroyed at the Sault Ste. Marie post on Wednesday morning. Charred metal is all that remains of 3 Michigan State Police cruisers. Maybe they were aiming for me.
Yeah.
I got out of town just in time.
I think you did.
Yeah. The 3 Michigan State Police cruisers were set on fire by an arsonist Wednesday morning. Michigan State Police 8th District Public Information Officer Lieutenant Mark Giannunzio. Wow, that's a last name.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's not really a Michigan last name there. That's more of a New York last name.
That kind of is. Said the events of this crime were astonishing. It is startling, Giannunzio said. These work sites are supposed to be our safe spaces where our troopers can go, let down their hair, and get the paperwork done. Do you really just let your hair down when you're getting paperwork done?
I don't have any hair.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't know what that's like.
I hate paperwork.
Yeah, me too. He said when our building and our cars are attacked in those areas, it's a big wake-up call to say that this could happen anywhere at any time. Giannunzio said the 3 patrol cars were destroyed and a 4th has moderate fire damage. He said no troopers were at the post Wednesday morning when a 39-year-old Florida man doused the cruisers with gasoline, set them on fire, and shot at them with a rifle.
He'll learn those, state police.
That's pretty thorough. After an extensive investigation and multiple tips, the suspect was found just south of the Sioux Thursday afternoon. When police carried out a search warrant, the suspect shot toward the troopers and police shot back. Boy, this guy's off his rocker.
This guy's way off his rocker.
The man was injured. His name has not been released. Giannunzio said officers across the department are shocked to be a victim of a crime. We think this kind of activity maybe is a bigger city issue, but There we are in the beautiful UP, and this kind of activity happens, Giannunzio said. It is a reminder for everybody to stay vigilant. Giannunzio said it has been more than 20 years since an MSP post or vehicle has been attacked. Investigators are still trying to figure out the man's motive.
I think this guy just watched First Blood and decided, hey, I can be Rambo.
I guess, right?
Because that's that type of community.
Yeah. MSP said Friday that the 39-year-old man is hospitalized in critical condition. He was injured after shooting towards the troopers on Thursday afternoon. Police started looking for the man after he drove into the driveway of the MSP Sault Ste. Marie post around 3:15 a.m. on Wednesday and doused several patrol cars with gasoline, set them on fire. Surveillance images showed the man then pulling out a rifle out of his SUV and firing multiple rounds into and around the patrol vehicles. That is crazy.
I wonder what he has against the MSP.
I don't know. Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked to hear that it was someone who just was one of those fringe people at Michigan Paracon. Just saying. And he's going to say, I thought I was coming after the cruiser, not cruisers. I love dumb.
I don't know what he looks like, so I got 3 of them.
Yeah, so I got all 3 of them. Figured I hit one of them. Yep. I don't know. No idea. 2 stories left today on Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals. This is our not safe for work portion of the program. So,
okay.
Not like
boobies
anything.
And beer. Beer and boobies.
That's right. So, and literally boobies and beer on this one of these stories. So, now is the time where if you have kids in the room, usher them out of the room. If you're listening at work, turn down your device or put in your earbuds right now. We are going to get a little funky with it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bruiser, you've just been traveling.
Yep.
I was traveling late last month. And sometimes when people are traveling, they decide that they want to bring back a little souvenir with them.
Oh, of course.
But sometimes
a couple back.
Sure. But sometimes that souvenir is a little bit of a contraband issue.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes you try to think of how you can sneakily bring it back with you. Not saying we condone that sort of activity here on Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals.
No.
But sometimes you just got to get something home.
Yeah, sometimes you got to stick it places and get through TSA.
Yeah. So is there anything that you had to, maybe in your earlier years, get home that you had to sneak away?
Cannabis.
Oh.
Some THC gummies. Yeah.
Yeah. You managed to get it home?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there you go. See. I mean,
I see now our travels is unique because as professional wrestlers, we carry different things. Like, for instance, everyone knows a blading. You know, it's when you cut yourself. Well, we need razor blades for that, which you can't fly with. I got stopped in Texas one time because I forgot I had a pair of rubber brass knuckles in my bag that I used for a finish the night before. So going through TSA, they see the big brass knuckles. They pull you out. Like, what do you have? And you have to go through the whole rigmarole, like, you know, I'm a pro wrestler, yada, yada, yada. Yeah. You know, and anytime you have a heavyweight, every time you have a belt, they stop you. Yeah. You know, they pull you out. Yeah. So us hiding stuff, you really don't, because you're gonna get searched anyways. Yeah. Depending on what you're doing, you know, with your gear bag. But yeah, I've taken gummies and put them in my check-on. When I used to fly out, when I was living in Wisconsin, we used to fly out to Maryland all the time. I'd bring an empty suitcase just to put cases of Yingling in there. Oh, okay. And check those and fly those home. But that's legal, so. Oh, okay. Okay. Understandable. Okay. Yeah, I've had 1 or 2 contraband things I brought with me that I didn't know I was bringing with me, but all of a sudden I figured out I brought with me. That's the thing too, is like, if you don't know, like I had a buddy who came back from, I think, Scotland, and he had actual absinthe. Yeah. And they took that from him and said that's contraband in America. Oh. And I didn't know that. Did you know? I didn't know. I guess the absinthe they sell here is different than the absinthe they sell in Europe. Really? Yeah. I had no idea. No idea. Not saying neither did he. Like, he didn't get charged or anything, but they're like, guys, you know, for future. Yeah. Can't have this. Interesting. No, I had no idea. Well, I have a story of one woman here who happened to sneak something back in her bra. Oh, see, now that's original. But it is. I figured they always look there. Well, you would think with the scanners at TSA, it'd be pretty easy to see, right?
This woman thought that she would try to sneak in 16 live lizards inside her bra and get away with it.
Ma'am, your breasts are moving. Yes, I flex.
Yes. I'm always flexing my tits, and somehow that just shows up on the scanner. I apologize. I'll try to not do it again.
What do you mean there's a lizard there? Is that a pickup line?
Here's the moment that Customs seized 16 live lizards inside a ferry passenger's bra. Customs agents were left gobsmacked after discovering a woman at the Fujian port in China after she tried to traffic 5 bags worth of lizards inside her bra.
Jeez. I like gobsmacked. That's a great word.
Them some big titties, Bruiser. That's all I got to say.
Man, that's the problem is she put them right there. So the male people are like, oh, look at the size of those.
Yeah.
And then one went, yeah, but wait, one's moving. Like, that's not supposed to happen.
A little lizard head pops up out of the cleavage and you go, ah!
Well, that lady's a lizard person, huh?
Yeah, lizard person. This is the moment customs agents in China seized 16 live lizards inside a female passenger's bra. The unnamed woman had been attempting to traffic the reptiles into Hong Kong, but was left red-faced after being caught on the Chinese mainland side of the border. Footage shows her shuffling through the customs area at Fujian Port, wearing incredibly baggy clothes, and was later forced to undergo a strip search after she drew too many suspicions. As officers took her aside, they discovered she had 5 mesh bags placed inside her bra, which contained 16 rare sail-finned lizards. Video released by the country's customs department shows agents, there's no comma here, the lizards out of the bags and placing them into large plastic containers while waiting for wildlife experts to take over. The sail-fin lizard, or Hydrosaurus amboinensis, I believe, or sail-fin dragon, is a group of large iguana-like reptiles named after the sail-like structure on their tails. Native to Indonesia and the Philippines, they are commonly found living near water and are threatened by both habitat loss and exotic pet trade.
Okay.
Sizes vary, with the largest males growing up to 3.5 feet long.
Oh, wow. I'm assuming these are all babies.
That's a little hard to get near your
I don't know how big her boobs were, but I'm assuming these are all babies.
Yeah. And the females are smaller than that 3.5 feet. It's not known exactly what gender of reptile was seized by this woman. Last month, customs agents seized 77 seahorses, 5 snakes, and snail ointment from a man traveling through U.S. airports. The male passenger was passing through Washington Dulles International Airport from Vietnam, and he was subjected to a secondary bag check when suspicious of its contents were raised by customs agents.
What is snail ointment? I've heard of snail trails. Snail ointment?
I don't think they're the same. The check was carried out on August 1st and revealed the passenger was carrying a particularly bizarre contraband and items that include 77 dried seahorses, dead snakes, and an ointment derived from snails, along with illegal pork products. The man was traveling to a final destination of Fairfax, Virginia. Let me see if it says what.
I'm looking it up right now. You could buy it.
The import of all items discovered required necessary permits or documentation of which the man did not have. Additionally, uncertified pork products from Vietnam are prohibited by the U.S. Department of Agriculture due to the potential introduction of the dangerous African swine fever and swine vesicular disease. A second traveler from Vietnam who arrived on August 4th was destined to San Francisco. It was found carrying 4 prohibited pork products and 50 small boxes of a commercial herbal liquid medicine that listed its ingredients as snake oil.
You might want to pick up some of the snail ointment there, Tim.
Why? What does it do?
Snail mucin is also known for its healing benefits, has been shown to enhance wound healing and can improve the appearance of scarring.
Really?
It's a nourishing moisturizer without the slime.
There you go. Well,
see, you could snail trail all over your foot.
Snail trails all over my foot. Yeah. Speaking of snail trails, are you ready for our last story?
Yes, I am.
We go to the Great Minnesota Get-Together for our final story, which just wrapped up over Labor Day. I got out there once this year.
Yeah.
I was not impressed. It's very hot, very people-y. Yeah, the Great Unwashed Get-Together. It's or the Great Unwashed Sweat Together, whatever you want to call it. The Minnesota State Fair for the first year in quite a while was down in attendance by 290,000 people. Because it was
weather.
Oh yeah, the weather. It was so hot.
Yeah.
This last 10 days of the fair that people just didn't want to go out. How hot was it? Well, it was so hot that people were losing their undergarments on the Sky Glider.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. In fact, the Minnesota State Fair hopes that this was your last year throwing your undergarments off the Sky Glider.
Just like at a concert.
That's right. Now, if you've never seen what the Sky Glider is, Bruiser, and I'm sure you've been to the Minnesota State Fair, that's the Sky Glider.
Oh, that Wisconsin State Fair too. I think all state fairs.
Yeah, it's that little air trolley or whatever that goes on the line. So you've got two of you fit in a little car, and you can ride all over the fair on it. It's got the little trolley lines, right?
13-year-old Bruiser learned that it's worth the $1 to ride on that because you can look down at girls' shirts when you're.
That's right. Yeah, when you're up in the air. Right.
Yeah, I learned that very young.
Yeah. For people riding the Sky Glider during the Minnesota State Fair this year, there's a good chance many riders saw a familiar yet surprising sight, which was a colorful array of bras, underwear, countless scrunchies, stuffed animals, and even a VHS tape decorating the roof of the Kemp's Little Farm Hands exhibit.
You guys still have VHS up there, huh?
Yeah, we use it from time to time. You know, who are we to be technologically advanced?
Yeah.
No one seems to know how the tradition began, but year after year, the roof ends up being a display of the public that the public curates for the fair. So, in other words, people toss their dirty underwear and all this other crap onto the Kemp's Little Farmhands exhibit there. The Great Throwdown tradition is what they're calling it at the fair, has been occurring since 2001 when the Sky Glider first opened, according to a 2016 story from the Pioneer Press. That's the St. Paul Pioneer Press. Over the years, media outlets have reported on dropped items including Sweet Martha's cookies, a toilet plunger, stuffed animals, and even, Bruiser, a prosthetic leg.
I don't need this anymore.
I can just hoof it. NPR News rode one of the first Sky Glider chairs on day one of the fair and documented a clear roof. There's nothing on it.
Oh, well, it's first day of the fair.
That's right. You wouldn't see anything on there. Yet, an hour and a half later, there was one key lime bra, one sunny yellow pair of underwear, and one black chunky sandal.
Okay.
The Little Farmhand staff usually waits until the fair ends to clear the roof of the items, according to media stories in prior years. Oh, God, it gets hot and sunny up there for 10 days. I mean, if you're throwing your dirty underwear down there.
Oh, that's going to stink.
Yeah. But this year was different. The state fair cleaned it off in the middle of the fair. According to social media, fairgoers noticed that the roof seemed more active with the unmentionables. Commenters on social media reacted to the photos of the roof, saying this year by far had more items on the roof.
That's because it was hot.
Here's a picture, Bruiser, of items on the roof of the Kemp's Little Farmhands exhibit.
A lot of underwear.
There's a lot of underwear up there, isn't there? On TikTok,
that's taken away from the farmhand people that work there. They get free underwear.
That's right.
Yeah, little Betsy there. That's how she furnishes her wardrobe.
You know what they do? What the little Farmhands exhibit does with those underwear? They make muzzles for the pigs.
Yes, they do.
On TikTok, when I say muzzles for the pigs, we're talking about their girlfriends. I'm just saying.
Yes.
On TikTok, a woman posted a viral video of her trying to have a wholesome day with her dad. Oh, good luck on that.
Oh, God, yeah. Way to go.
Yeah. And shielding his eyes. Oh, you're here. Dad. How do you think you got here?
Your dad's never seen a bra.
Or panties.
Yeah. I hate to blow this to you, honey, but your dad's been removing bras one-handed since you were in a scrotum.
Yeah. And we hate to blow this for you, honey, but your mom probably blew your dad. So there you go.
Your mom and dad probably did this ride, and he probably threw her bra down there.
That's right. So she's trying to have a wholesome day, quote unquote, with her dad and shielding his eyes so he wouldn't see the bras and underwear on the roof.
Because, he's never seen them.
What, are you afraid dad's going to pop a rod?
No, he's probably gonna be afraid that his dad's going to go, that looks just like your mother's.
Jeez, look at your mom's boulder holder on the roof there. And that giant slingshot down there looks like hers, too.
Before your mom's titties hit her knees, she used to throw her bra there all the time. Now she needs it to hold them up where they're supposed to be. It's a helicopter ride when she doesn't wear them.
I don't see any that say Lane Bryant on it. The Minnesota State Fair expects riders on the Sky Glider to follow the safety rules, which include securing all items and not throwing or dropping anything from the ride. A State Fair spokesperson told NPR News on Wednesday with a somewhat straight face.
I'm surprised that it's so wholesome. There's not anything disgusting on there. Like, no one took a shit and threw it on there. No one, cup of piss.
Butsy was not at the fair.
Like,
no.
I can't wait.
he's dropping shit bombs from the Sky Ride. Butsy makes a painting at the Little Farm Hands exhibit. I'm going to paint that roof.
This bucket full of diarrhea. I knew I saved it for something.
Yeah, I'm surprised no one's thrown out vibrators or anything like that.
Exactly. There's nothing like out of the, like, okay, cool, bra and underwear. Like, you go into a local bar in Wisconsin or Minnesota, they got bras hanging on the wall.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty tame.
Yeah.
They haven't done anything over the top.
Like a plunger. Okay, yeah, I can see a plunger. Come on, Minnesotans, be original.
Is that right? I mean, we could have thrown Kirk Cousins out on the roof. He isn't doing anything.
Yeah, but he would have missed it by a mile.
He would have been high and to the left.
Throw little people up there. That's what I do.
Why?
Why not? Just have a little person waving at you as you go past. It's awesome.
What?
I don't know.
That's like some sort of weird Blind Melon video you're putting together now. What's wrong with you? Jesus. The last line of the story says, next year, why not ditch the ditching and blow bubbles while on the ride? Whose bubbles and why are we blowing them?
Blow bubbles on the ride. Yeah, sure.
Whose bubbles?
I'm surprised there's not much more vomit on there either. That was a pretty clean roof.
It was, yeah. I'm surprised more people don't throw up on the Sky Ride.
I was going to say, drinking all day. Hot.
When you come into the Sky Ride, as you exit, you can buy a corn dog from the Sky Ride.
There's no corn dog sticks on there?
No, it's after you land.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
You could buy a corn dog from there. No, if they gave it to you on your way there, there'd be 1,000 corn dogs on the roof. I'd throw a mustard-laden corn dog on the roof and just let it sit there. That'd be worth the price of admission right there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's what we got there for Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals. We end it with people throwing their dirty undies on the... That's Minnesotans for you, though. That's cheap. That's cheap entertainment for us.
Yes, it is.
Hey, Gertie, you want to throw your dirty panties out on the roof? We'll never get caught. We'll get away with one. Kind of like the Viking season last year. That'll do it for Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals. Oh boy, we got to wrap this up. That'll do it for Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals for this week. Tomorrow on the show, Supernatural News, the return of Ziggy's Picks. She has a special edition for the season. And we've got lots of weird, wacky, wild stories for tomorrow. And then Thursday, the return of MJ Dixon.
Ooh.
We'll be talking Supernatural Africa.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's coming up. Next week, we're moving Adam Berry to next week. just so you guys know. But his new book, Goodbye Hello, is available right now for pre-order. You can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever you get your books. That will be released on September 26th, but you can pre-order right now. Folks, I've read the book already. I've read it twice. And it is an amazing book. It's got some really great advice in that book, as it is not just a biography of Adam Berry, but it is also a book with it delves into some cases and delves into some paranormal opinion in investigating, and where he's at with his ideas of the living, the dead, and this whole thing called life. So it's fascinating. He's got some fascinating theories on paranormal investigation and what we're doing in this life. So pick it up, pre-order it. It'll be well worth the money, well spent money. And I was fascinated by it. Hell, it even made me tear up twice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's quite touching. So it's called Goodbye Hello, and it's available right now on Amazon or Barnes & Noble, wherever you get your books. So Bruiser, what you got going on this weekend?
Training the youth. If you want to be a professional wrestler, go to amlwrestling.com/training. And come here to Winston-Salem. Let me train you.
There you go. All right, folks, that'll do it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in to the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. We'll see you tomorrow for supernatural news on the best in paranormal podcasting. This has been Darkness Radio.